Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm very pleased to open these new sessions of design conversation. I say two sessions, one about climate change and another about AI, so two major changes. Let me start by thanking our main partner. First of all, I want to thank la Caisse des Dépôts and especially Nathalie Pezzoli and team. Thank you, Nathalie, for helping us to organize this event. And also EDF and team who help us for the organization. Thank you for our main sponsor of this event who made it possible. I would like also to thank my team for all the event, and especially also Frédéric de Gouzon, who helped me to raise this. So thank you very much, Frédéric, again. And so today, it's a very special day. We are not here to do just another conference. We are here to do a Cumulus conversation, a real conversation between you, between industrial designers, and between leaders in design. And we are here to raise voices, to ask questions, and to address the different stakes that we live today in design and in the world. So the tone could be bold, provocative, kind of controversy maybe, and some uncomfortable conversation. And I would like to thank all the participants and the different stakeholders of the round tables to help us for that. So we are here to question, explore, confront, and to do so with generosity, critical thinking, and open mind. How to do that? You have the opportunity to participate. You have just to scan this QR code, and we will have your questions just on the screen, on my screen, and we will moderate the questions. So take a moment to catch the QR code on the screen. I can tell you that you can remain anonymous. It's up to you. And you can send the question, reactions, etc. You have a questionnaire, and you will see that. So don't hold back. Challenge. That's what this day is made for. And now, to officially open our conversations, I want to introduce someone whose leadership continues to inspire the community of l'École de Design Nantes Atlantique. Please welcome the president of l'École Nantes Atlantique, Madame Anne Brochard.
Thank you, Florent. I feel like a singer. Dear professors and researchers, dear entrepreneurs, dear students, it is a real pleasure to open this new edition of Cumulus Design Conversations here in Nantes. This event matters because it speaks to all of us, to designers, to academics, yes, but also to companies, institutions, and organizations that will soon welcome the next generation of designers into their teams. At l'École de Design Nantes Atlantique, supported by the great Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Nantes-Saint-Nazaire, we believe in one thing above all. Design must lead. Design must lead in companies, in cities, and in the transition we are all enduring. Why? Because design is the only discipline that can navigate complexity with ethics, with imagination and pragmatism. As an entrepreneur, I'm proud to say this school and this vision have energized our region for over 20 years. This very building where we gather today is a symbol of that shared ambition between education and industry. Here's how we teach design. First, we teach our students to observe, to listen, to understand the realities of those they design for. Then, we train them to speculate, model, and imagine new pathways. And finally, to propose concrete and responsible solutions with real social and economic value. Designers are strategic thinkers and ethical leaders, building bridges between humans and systems, between industry and the planet. Today, we are going to confront some of the most urgent questions of our time. We will not be afraid of what's coming. We will try to shape it with a human lens, with the tools of design, and with ethical clarity. Climate transition, technological transition, especially artificial intelligence, are disrupting the very foundations of our profession. But they are also opening incredible opportunities to rethink solutions, collaborations, and ways of living. Let me share a story. I recently spoke to a small business owner, a pool builder with a strong local reputation here in Nantes. But today, climate regulation, material shortages, and energy prices are shaking his world. He asked, "What should I do now?" Design helps him ask the right questions. How can I build with better circular materials? How can I reduce water and energy use? How can I rethink usage, shape, reuse? Are these engineering questions? Maybe. But above all, they are systemic questions, and systemic questions are design questions. This is what ethical design means. Not just creating, but questioning. Not just building new things, but asking, should this exist? How? For whom? AI will transform how we design. Climate transition will redefine what we design. But without a philosophical compass, we risk losing our way. Like many French children, I read Rabelais, the great humanist of the 16th century. He wrote, "Science without conscience is the ruin of the soul. Design must become that guardian of conscience in our time, a compass for science, for technology, and for business." So today, let's ask real questions. Let's push ourselves to the limit. Let's make this space one of clarity, courage, and shared responsibility. Thank you all, and enjoy this powerful day.
Thank you very much, Anne. Thank you, Anne. So, will the design be the compass for business? This is a still open question. And now we will launch the conversations, and I'm honored to welcome someone who has been shaping the global design landscape for many years. Please welcome Gilles Rougon. So Gilles, you are not only a long-time design strategic. Can I say long time? Yeah, more or less. You are a thinker, you are a connector. I remember our first meeting. You are a challenger, a key voice of APCI, Organization of the Design and the Creative Industrial Creation. You are also WDO, the World Design Organization past treasurer and regional advisor, and you are EDF, Design and Innovation Catalyst. So many hats, if I can say that. The interaction of design, public policy, transformation, innovation. And you are there to set the stage and to give us a keynote, a few provocations maybe, some provocative things, and a few challenges. You are there to open the space for dialogue. So, Gilles, let's start, and let's ready to think, maybe to question, to engage. Gilles.
Thank you so much, Florent, and welcome, everyone. Just for me to know, are there some designers there? If you could just raise okay, great. So I'll try to be as short as possible to put some food for thought on the table. I'm quite sure we will explore during the day. Since there are lots of designers here, may I ask you why, if you remember, why you decided to become a designer and when? So don't answer me, I will give you my feedback. Because the guy you see here is me when I was 2 years old. I was raised up in Africa, and it shaped my life, really, for two main reasons. We were living in situations where everyone was knowing that nature was leading everything. And as a consequence, it was very important to take attention to relationships in between the human beings and their living neighborhoods. And I think it was really important for me as a first ethical background. Of course, when we speak about ethics in design, we are sitting on the shoulders of some giants. I'm sure that even if I didn't put the names, you recognize Dieter Rams with the 10 principles that has shaped a lot of good designs in Brown and in other companies. If you remember, when you ask yourself what is good design, when Victor Papanek in the mid-70s called the community to question itself about its responsibility towards the society, it wasn't that easy for the designers. It was not really supported at that time. And I will also end up with Herbert Simon, who is not a designer. He's coming from the cognitive sciences. But I think he probably delivered for me the really wise definition of design, saying design is about changing existing situations into preferable ones. So ethics has always been there, and of course we are living in quite a brutal world. I'm sure you've discussed that also during the other days. Brutal because facts, because science, because democracies, because climate change are really challenged today. So in this situation, I would like just to put a few tension I consider maybe very interesting to bear in mind, and probably for each of us, depending on the sectors we are working in, we have to identify where we put the balance in between these tensions and our roles. So of course, we've discussed about the climate change and the fact that human beings need to have the nose in front of the wall before moving, and designers could help us accelerate that much more and earlier than expected, even if not easy. So design is powerful to help us change. I know that AI has really impacted lots of disciplines, should I say everything. Of course, there are discussions about AI assistance for designers. You use probably AI in some of your softwares, etc. But what I think is much more interesting, is the fact that maybe designers should design AI. And I'm sure you noticed the announcement by Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, of his collaboration with Jonathan Ive, and I'm sure there will be lots of interesting things behind that. I think that there are also some questions between where we put the cursor between customization and equity. Design is, or has, in my opinion, a lot to do for all. Another one is the potential contradictions between property, personal property of things, of lots of stuff, and commons. I think design for commons is really growing. You said also, Anne, that we have more and more designers working in cities, and I couldn't but stress the incredible Edible Network projects that I think is a very interesting initiative. what will be the role and the ethics of design in between industry and the need to regenerate our little planet? There are lots of contradictions there. Of course, we are also living in a very tricky moment, and design for peace is not design for war, of course, but there are here also some challenges designers have to tackle. And ethically, we cannot just put that aside and don't have a look at it. Culture and immaterial word is also very important for us as designers, but we also have to bear in mind the material, physical world we impact by our designs. So ethically, where do you want to be? What will be the achievement, the impacts you want to have? Of course, there are mostly four main areas where we are confronted to lots of limits. Water, energy, I know what I speak about, coming from the energy sector. The raw materials also are not unlimited, and even the land surfaces, the land use is starting to become a question, because you have to use it for lots of purposes, and also some limits there. Before concluding this really introductive talk, I looked at the skills on the rise for the next 5 years. It's a report from the World Economic Forum, you probably know. And I'm not here to really point out any of them, but I tried, from my point of view, of course, to look at the different skills related to design, in my opinion. Because the only moment where design is highlighted is design and UX UI. So in red, I put some dots on skills I consider are really in the scope of design, or in connection with. And in purple, maybe some to be strengthened. I really invite you to do the same for your job. And I wanted to also end up with the fact that this topic is also interesting a lot young designers in the WDO community, which is really close to Cumulus. There are a bunch of young designers in a young designer cycle, and they decided to work on kind of a design oath proposal, and it will be discussed on the 29th of June. I invite you to the conversation after this day. So I will just end up by thinking and sharing with you this idea that it's not anymore about good design we have to develop ethics for, but right design. What does right design mean? And yeah, I'm quite sure that the panelists, the witnesses, and you all with your questions will help us discuss all these points. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilles. Thank you, Gilles. From good design to right design, what do you think about it? Gilles, you stay with us to challenge the participants, and we will be able to ask some questions. Now it's time to invite a new generation of designers to continue setting the stage on this conversation. I would like to invite someone who represents a designer working inside the public institutions. Please welcome Lucie Chenet from Caisse des Dépôts, Banque des Territoires, designer. Lucie. Before you will speak, I want to thank especially So, Nathalie, the design manager at la Caisse des Dépôts, you made it possible for Lucie to take the floor and share your voice here. So, how do you react, Lucie? And what do you do in la Caisse des Dépôts? What is the complexity of what you are doing?
Yes, again. Hello, everyone. Like Florent said, my name is Lucie Chenet, and I'm very grateful to be here today with you. Can we talk about ethical design without mentioning the general interest? And can we talk about the general interest without talking about public services? I'm here as a young public services designer working for the Caisse des Dépôts et Consignations to start the conversation with Gilles and the others. But first, maybe before, a word about this institution, the Caisse des Dépôts et Consignations, because we often hear the name, but we don't always know what it actually does. La Caisse des Dépôts is a French public institution that has been financing and supporting public policies for over 200 years. In addition to granting the good use of public investments, sometimes la Caisse des Dépôts also act as an operator of projects, from conception to implementation. In the public design studio of la Banque des Territoires of la Caisse des Dépôts et Consignations, with two other designers, like said Florent, the head of design, Nathalie Pezzolini, and my colleague, Vincent Elmali, we contribute to the creation of service of various public interest missions. For example, the child protection. For the child protection, we create a shared digital space connected the child with the professionals supporting them, a tool which facilitates their path to independence. We've also worked in subjects like aging population, energy renovation, augmented agents also with AI. And we work also on a new French public services called France Service, and much more. In each project, we have to adapt our design practice to the specific needs and constraints of the public sector. And to meet that challenge, we can also count on the precious help of l'École de Design de Nantes Atlantique, and which I sincerely thanks again today. A special mention to Florent Orsini, because since the beginning, he stand by our side to promote a strategic digital design, and we need this more than ever. It's essential to us to support the new generation of designers, and we are really proud to this strong partnership with a school that promotes a committed, an ethical, and an ecological approach of design. Public services design is by nature deeply connected to the theme of today, embracing complexity, shaping new futures, and redefining leadership. First, complexity. The complexity is perhaps the first word that comes in mind when we think about public services. To embrace it means accepting to work with a living system, a living organism, shaped by history, full of legacy and paradoxes, where things that work coexist with things that don't. It's also working across many layers, the public policy linked to the projects, the services and tools associated, from the reception desk, for example, to the website, for the user, of course, from the agent who operate it, to the citizen who use it, as well as the technology, infrastructure, material, regulation, and so much more. Embracing complexity in public services, it's also respecting strong public duties, continuity of service, equality of access, inclusion, and sustainability. And to finish, and maybe the more important, embraced complexity in service public, it's also adapting the service to the very different realities in each territories. Second theme, shape new futures for public services. To shape new futures, despite all this complexity we just saw, we can't just throw away and start from scratch. Public innovation is not there a blank page, it's impossible. Instead, it's about aligning what already exists around the common axis of reparation, mending, filling gap, and reinforcing fragile systems. It's also interfacing and ensuring that service journeys are interoperable and sovereign. And the most importantly, it's targeting the people at the margin, who do struggle the most, instead of designing for the majority, for the largest number like we used to. So now, let's build all together. Let's commit to a good public design, a right design, a design that takes responsibility, that refuses obsolescence, cacophony, and innovation for innovation's sake. An ethical design that repairs, heals, and cares for things. And for this, we need designers, professional, student, researcher, all the school, to bridge the gap between the decision-making and the public action, between the political world and the administrative one. We need designer between the vision and the action. I'm truly looking forward to hearing you inside on this all this afternoon, and I wish you a good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lucie. You can, thank you for this perspective, for these challenges. Just remember, please join the conversation. What challenge speaks you the most? Maybe you can give you some insight. We have some big challenge for designers. And now we have laid the foundation, a day of tension, challenge, transformation, like you did, Lucie, in the public services. I think this is a lot of challenge. And now we will use your elements to feed the future conversations. But it's time to enter to the first major conversation of the day. So we have the first panel here with climate change and resilience, and the key role of the designers, maybe, ethical design leadership. The question is like a big question. How can design respond to the climate emergency? Is it a key? Not just by creating better solutions, but by reshaping the systems maybe that produce them? What a challenge. So we will try to see how that works. So let's welcome our first panel. Please welcome, join us on the stage, Clara Bove from AXA, Cathy Cotelon from Saint-Gobain, Nicolas Buche from Orano, and Emmanuel Touan from the French Design Association. Please welcome on the stage. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this invitation. We have a fantastic panel here, and I'm very proud to start. And to start with the first round of insight, I want to give the floor to Clara. Clara, so you are a designer at AXA.
Yes.
With a lot of challenges, because this is an insurance company with a lot of managing of climate risk, anticipating, etc. So can you explain us what is the role of the designer? It's unexpected there.
Yes, that's exactly the point. So I'm a user research and product design lead in a small division that is called AXA Digital Commercial Platform. That is a part of an entity that is dealing with insurance for the commercial lines. And my role was used when I joined AXA 10 years ago. It was definitely not attractive for designers because obviously as a designer, who wants to work for any financial institution? But it was the beginning of my job, it was the beginning of my career, and it was paying well, so I was attracted by that at the very beginning. But it was very operational, meaning designing web interfaces and mobile apps. And progressively, it shifted toward a more strategic position. And it's because also the insurance industry is shifting paradigm, because we used to sell products, so we were seen as a transactional partner, or transactional person for companies and for individuals, meaning that we were just there to take their money and not reimburse whenever there were a claim. But it's shifting, and it's all because we are living in a world in polycrisis. This means that there are increasing numbers of catastrophic events raising all over everywhere on the planet, and all these events that are bigger and bigger, they are also more complex because they are interconnected, which makes it completely impossible to predict them. And insurance business is based on our capacity to predict the risks. So this means that probably we will not have business. So we have to change. We have to change in that sense that we cannot insure things that we don't know about, but we can provide support. We have the data, we have the expert inside the house to accompany our clients in their adaptation journey. Because in the end, when we talk about climate risks, it's really related to the capacity of everyone to adapt to these new constraints. And so my role now is to accompany this company into becoming more systemic and user-driven when we are conceiving services to help them on their adaptation journey.
I will ask you a question. It was not expected, but so you shift, in fact, as a designer, your function shifted.
Yes, so it's really shifted because I was really just one individual within this big company, and I gained expertise and trust from my peers internally, also because I got a PhD in AI, so I think that they changed the point of view. I had tattoo, I was designer, so I had no credibility. And all of a sudden, because I have a PhD, I became someone that you can trust. So they put me in a position where I am now part of the leadership team, and design is actually a key function within our small division. Again, it's not AXA, it's a small division of AXA that is acting like a startup. But yeah, I changed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Clara, for this short presentation. Then we go to we'll go to Cathy. Cathy Cotelon. So you are from Saint-Gobain, building materials, I think, and a famous one, international company, of course. And when we prepared this day, you told me that you were not product designer anymore. Maybe you were never a product designer, but you were a system shaper. So you shift a little bit on that. So
this is what you say. It's not what I was saying. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to be there to share a little bit our journey into this big company, because Saint-Gobain is a very interesting company. Why? Because she's producing a large amount of materials. And the design team decided to focus their energy on building construction material, especially because we saw that there is a very direct link in between material and human beings, in fact. So that's why, for me, this company is very interesting, because we are doing business, but this is a business who make people alive, I would say, because all our material are applied into different buildings. So probably, if I look at this room, I will find some Saint-Gobain material.
Possible.
Yeah, but when you say that, can we design material? What is the question behind materials? When we joined this company, it was difficult to see what is the value proposition of a designer beside material science, because whole materials in such a company is a question of formulation, it's a question of chemistry and things like that, mechanical things, thermal things, so no place for human at the end. And we have the chance to have a little place to start, because someone there understands that the future will be human-centered issues. Because habitability of the world, you have habitat in the world. So what does it mean to produce material that make people able to conduct their activities, finally? So this will be, I would say, the first shift, is to consider in another way what material is and what kind of relation we need to build to design them. And the other things which make the topic very strategic is that the sectors of construction is producing 40% of the global amount of CO2 emission. I'm not proud to say that, it's only a fact. But when you say that, behind, if you have to tackle this question, in fact, you have to find solution that is as ecologically acceptable, but all this energy is also required to produce material, but also to heat your home. You know, this is why it's very interesting, because it's not to put the user at the center as a methodology, it is because people are at the center of the question. So that's why, for me, design is key in such a company. And to operate the shift, at the moment, as a designer, we learn a little bit more what is the climate change roadmap in these particular sectors. And this is what you have in front of you. What we understood is something very critical, because the road in this market is to stop building. So it could be thought as something ironic, but tomorrow, the future in the building construction is to stop building things. So what does it mean? When we ask this kind of question to our C-level, you know, they create a kind of discomfort. But why it was very interesting? Because finally, it's a way to project ourselves in the future, not to have fear, but to backcast the things. So if the future is to stop building, what are the steps we need to integrate to achieve this? If we are stopping building things, what does it mean? It means that renovation is also a key issue. Because finally, we have a big stock of buildings. So why can we not start by equip them, update them, reuse them? So probably it's something natural for you, but when your business and central business is built on the fact that you are producing things to build, it is a rupture, finally. So we thought about that, and we imagined what could be the new frames for design, because we cannot just say that we are a material provider, so we have to design material. So what could be the role of the material in a world where material probably will change their role to enhance the adaptation, for example, of the building itself? So it creates a new industrial road for Saint-Gobain. What could be a business based on secondary material and not raw material itself? It opened a new road for Saint-Gobain also. So this is how we tackle the question, and we are trying to find very, very precise questions to answer that help us to redefine what is our role and what kind of methodology we have to put behind, so that probably one shift will be for us also, is to change our ways to design. So to do that, and I will finish on this because I think that I have 3 minutes. is to include a little bit more the issue of research. And we were invited, you talk about PhD and so on. The designer at Saint-Gobain are emerged into an R&D center, and all our colleagues are doctors. We are the only one who have no PhD. So it was not, as you say, very easy at the beginning to be legitimate. But finally, we have other stakes. I think that we will discuss after, but research and knowledge probably will be one point very key in the shift.
To shift.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Cathy. Thank you for this insight. Fantastic. So we'll go on with Nicolas. Nicolas, you are at a strategic industry, like with Orano, and you lead, I think, a business innovation team and some designers. You are not designers by yourself. So, can you explain us how do you see design in a strategic industry?
Okay, first I'm working in the nuclear industry. Energy, but very small player in energy. My company is Orano, and we are taking care of uranium before and after the nuclear plant. That's our business. And we are a small company in energy, in fact. We look as a big company, but we are small in regards to the big players of energy. And my job in Orano was first to help the company to make an evolution in the business models of the company first. That's how I entered into innovation at that time. Some will say nuclear has to change a lot. Some others say a little bit. So I will not enter into the details. But somehow, like any industrial company today, we have to change, and innovation can help at changing company. So we decided to help the company to change through the innovation, through business models, innovating in business models. That was the first step. But very rapidly, the approach was to invite designers to work on business models and evolving business models. I did put two pictures on the wall. On one side, there is the two American guys. On one side, there is Elliot Noyes. On this side, he was the head of design of the Museum of Modern Art. And on the other side, it's Frank Lloyd Wright, architect, famous architect in US, who was the designer of the small house on the river, waterfall. And by putting those two figures, what I want to say is that where we bring design into innovation and exploration of new business model, it's all about reducing a risk, exploring, being adaptive, being very in contact to local culture. And if it's more with Frank Lloyd Wright approach, meaning that first we bring design to innovation, design to business model innovation, but it's maybe not all design. Every design is super interesting, but we are more interested in this kind because for us it helps a lot. So that first that business model innovation, then a very organic approach to design, and then very rapidly it was not just about business model. Very rapidly, if we wanted to work on, really wanted to have an impact, it was not just about being desirable in French, sorry, feasible or viable financially, which in fact is about business, but really also for us as a company, it's very important to see if we are sustainable from an environment point of view, because as you can even imagine in my industry, if there is an environmental problem, you end up in the news immediately, even if it's super small. So environment is critical. Society is super important. Is our business acceptable? 10 years ago, acceptability was like we were the only industry that has a problem with acceptability. But today, it's every industry. I don't know an industry that does not have a problem with the building industry, airplane industry, etc. there's this big question about the industry. On one hand, we need industry, but because we are very happy with all the products and services that we have, but then we also need to change it. So acceptability is super important, and also, does it make sense? Does the thing we are doing make sense in a local context, in a local culture, and then locality and context, we are back to Frank Lloyd Wright, and this is super important. So if I just speak about business model, it does not make sense with design, but if we look, it makes sense, but maybe a lot of designers are not interested to work on business, but like a lot of engineers, in fact. But if we speak about that, it's not just about business, it's about environment, it's about society, it's about culture, then designers are super interested to work with us and work on business model, on value creation models, and that's what we are doing with design at Orano.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this presentation. So there is a shift on the designer, and they create a kind of new values, if we can say that, creating new values. So first, to finish this first round, I will ask Emmanuel. Emmanuel, you are head of APCI, Agency of Promotion for the Promotion of the Industrial Creation, so the most important organization of designers in France. And you will give us maybe some insight about, because we talk about the competencies of designers, and maybe you can give us some insight of what the designer could have as a competencies.
Yeah, thank you, Florent. I'm really happy to be here. Also because I am from École de Design Nantes Atlantique, like 20 years ago I was there as a student, then that's nice to come back. I create my own company then 20 years ago, and who is called DC, with a small design agency, specialize in consulting to integrate design in SME. In a lot of activity sector in France, we work like in 50 different activity sector on more than now 400 innovation, service, product design, industrial design, digital design, space design, a lot of things. And then we are a global design agency. As the owner of this kind of agency, I have to sell design to my clients. And then in France, that means you have to explain design to people who don't know what is it exactly. Because if you ask almost anybody, or maybe not there in the room, but if you go on the street and ask to a CEO, any kind of company, what is design, it will be very difficult to find a proposition like the proposition Gilles shared with us just before. Then I have to explain quickly what designers and what design could do for the company. And not just about increased prices or increased margins. That's nice, but it's an economical point of view, and that's not the only point of view of the designer. That means how the design skills can help a company. And then usually in France, it's the designer itself helping the company. I don't like to say that. I prefer say the design skills are sharing by all the designer, but we are interested as a human being on all different things. That means some designers are very good on holistic vision or systemic point of view. Some other are good and nice user-centric approach based on a ground feeling, ground observation. You have, as a designer, to be able to represent what you have in mind properly, correctly. And that's a key point of design, but usually it's the only way to think about what a designer is able to do. That means, oh yes, you are a nice sketcher, and that's nice, but they miss usually a lot of part on design competencies. Then obviously we have to, in industry, in every kind of industry or business, you have to understand technical challenge in finance, insurance, industry, obviously, nuclear problematics. We don't have to avoid perceived value, because we increase perceived value and then we increase margins, price, but it's kind of the result of a good design way of thinking, and it's not the main goal. That's very important to remember. And at least the designer is able also to prototype something. That means when you explain how you can do something, the result is you can follow from a strategic subject. That's the beginning of our conversation. A strategic subject is the subject, and then we have to transform a subject into an object. That's definitely for me the way of thinking about design and what to do with a company. And it's very convenient for transformation of a company. That means you identify a subject and follow what to do to define a new and nice object. That means for territory and public policy, and that means you can transform a kind of collective point of view into a collective object, and then everybody can speak about, can touch it, and can discuss about it. And that's why design is definitely one of the key competencies to transform and shift the society, because we manage and share complexity, we humanize project, any kind of, we make things and visible and realistic, and then we integrate all the problematics, and we have to face off a lot of things. I will to remember the crisis we are facing off today. Obviously, climate change, we speak about, but we have a big and huge crisis just in front of us is demographical challenge. Okay, the population of all the world is going old. The elderly people will be all the people in the world like in 20, 30 years, almost, except in African continent. But for us, it will be very difficult, like in Asia today. And that means we have also to face off AI problematic, problematic, and digital revolution, new one again, and obviously a geopolitical and strategic problematic that we really well know today. That means we have a crisis sandwich, and then to understand that you need all the design skill to go on good object for everyone.
Thank you. That's an ambition. Thank you, Emmanuel. So this is time for question. We have already some question, and I will let Gilles maybe ask the first question.
So thank you to the audience for sharing some questions. I will start from one. So the question is for Clara, if you accept it.
Yes.
You exposed us what is the challenges in the insurance industry. One of the key challenges that the audience is very interested by is climate change and AI. My question is, do you have some use of AI in your company? And of course, AI needs raw materials, uses energy, and if you have not decarbonized energy, in fact, you feed the climate change. So on the other end, it could help you resolve very complex problems. So I would like to know a bit more about that.
Can I do a thesis on this? Because to be honest, it's a huge topic. So yes, obviously, on the top list of risks, emerging threats that we see, climate change related transitional and physical risks, and on the other side, technological risks, including AI. On AI, there are many challenges, but I would not say that sustainability is one of them. It's for sure, it's consuming a lot of energy, but the main problem with AI remains more what effect will it have on people, because we already see that it have very negative effect on young people, young generation, on the learning path, etc. So it really already creates some patterns that are not very good for some behaviors, that are not really good for the young. And plus, there are also the problem of accountability. Who's accountable for the mistakes that an AI may make? It was true a few years back, but it's even more true now that we have huge foundation models that are uncontrollable, like we can't even know how they make one decision. So if we cannot explain one prediction made by a model, but who is accountable for these mistakes? And sometimes life are at stake. So there are people who who died because of those AI. So tackling this topic, it's the two topics, it's really difficult to tackle. On one side, it's probably more like on the AI side, I would say that there is a lot to do with regulation. If we have strong regulation, as it is happening currently at the moment in Europe, well, it's an attempt, but it's going in the right direction. Then we have some chance to maybe limit the damages, but it would need that everyone will align on this. And on the second, on climate-related, more physical risks, I would say that it's really a matter of adaptation. I'm biased because I work in the insurance industry, so we are trying to figure it out how we might make everyone best prepared for the upcoming possible risks. So what was the question? Sorry.
No problem, you answered. Thank you. Thank you. No, this is a huge challenge, of course. Maybe turn the mics to Katie. You just introduced this idea of rehabilitation, refurbishment, reuse of materials. I think that the design community is now really engaged into circular economy more and more. And finally, you stress the fact that research will be a very interesting lever for the future. Could you maybe develop a bit that point, especially maybe the topics you want research to be driven to, from your point of view, of course, in your company?
From my point of view, because I cannot express an answer for the different context of our industrial context, but I think that why research is interesting is because finally the business is very hard. So today, as a company, we don't have any time to think, to project ourselves in the future and so on. We are looking for quick wins because the planet is on fire, you know, but if we only act with quick wins, probably at the end we won't lose the end of the road. So that's why I think that today it's important, beside innovation, to keep a foot into research also, because I make a little bit the difference in between the both. So for me, it's very important. It's important also because I don't have the feeling that as a designer we are all well equipped to research things. So if we need to go through research, we need to have some background a little bit more. The other thing is that finally a shift is also a question of new concept thinking, because when we are talking about circularity, it's not only to say on a board that we need to close the loop. Finally, the ideas of what is economy behind circularity is totally different than the way we are producing value today. One example is that and I based my answer on the work on Nantes, who write a lot of things about business model for circularity. One of the key points is symbiosis industry. So symbiosis industry is a concept that obliges in a certain way industrial to collaborate. Today, everybody are doing their own effort to capture the maximum of value on the market. Tomorrow, if you have to share, how does it work? You know, symbiosis economy means that you can imagine that the resources or the refurbishment of the other can be the value for you. Okay, but what is the risk to introduce in your own manufacturing system something that is not yours? So it opens, that's what I say, it creates new frames, because it's not to say that, creatively speaking, we are creating new frames. It's because a situation, when you look at it as a designer, some new questions appear and things have to be built. And why research is important is that to do this kind of thinking, you need to understand a little bit more what is behind the mechanism of this mechanism. You know, that's why I say that it is very important, and not to make it like naive, creative people. I am also a naive, creative people. But it's very important, because you will face the fact that you will have to work on topics that you are not prepared. For example, in the building construction, regulation is something very key. I have no PhD in legacy. Okay, so you can tell me that I can work with someone who, but I don't have the vocabulary. Sometimes it's very difficult to measure the weight of a concept. So that's why I think that there is new skills that we need to have to tackle this. But we have, as Emmanuel explained, a lot of powerful skills that help us to do that.
And what are the challenges, Cathy, for the schools, for example? So what is needed, in fact? Shall we change things, the way we teach design? Let's start.
So I'm not the director of the school, so it will be easy for me to answer, because it's easy to tell the other to do something. You know, I have no responsibility. But yes, I'm a chairwoman. But probably it's very ideation, because it's something that I think that whole we are trying to build for the better. So we have to stay very humble. But I believe that one thing. I believe that we need to keep our curriculum on creative aspects. Because what I see today is that when you look at and only on thinking things, you finish by losing your design skill of shaping things. And if you want to prove to a CEO that your idea is good, if you have no things to put on the table, it's only idea. And in a company, you are not alone as a designer to have ideas. So yes, so I think that we need to keep things. It's not only to change only, but I think we need to keep very hard skills into design. And the other thing is probably that looking with a positive way of specialization also. I have the feeling that in design school, we really love this idea to be very transversal, to have this very general competency and knowledge. I think it's interesting to have this, but sometimes to reach your legitimacy, you have to be very precise on things. So if we are comparing with engineering curriculum, there is this years of specialization. So I think that for the school, and I know that in Nantes you are working on this, but developing several journeys to become a designer, I think could be interesting.
Thank you, thank you. At the beginning of the afternoon, Lucy stressed what she was doing for territories. I know, Emmanuel, that you also use design a lot to help local institutions and lots of stakeholders at a local scale to, I hope, go to a more resilient, attractive way of living. Could you just develop a bit that, please?
Yeah, no problem. Furthermore than being the CEO of DC and chairman of APCI, I have the honor to work with NC, with École nationale supérieure de création industrielle, on a local program based in Britain, which is called SIBD, or Sustainable Innovation by Design. And in this program, we have some alumni in the room, I think. In this program, we decide to try to tackle a community problem, commons problem. And one of the biggest challenge was to try to explain to collectivity as a as a mayor of a little city or village, but plus a department problematic or regional issue, we decide to work as a designer on a subject with a very simple. It's the dismantlement of the nuclear plant of Brenilis in Britain. Who, for the history, it's one of the first nuclear plant prototype in France, based in Britain, but unfortunately for the Britain guy, they don't, EDF, don't choose this prototype to develop all the nuclear plant in France. That means you have one big building, and then it's empty since now 40 years. A bit more, and then but nothing happened. Nothing happened because nobody was able to identify the territory of the project, and furthermore, the project for the territory. And that's I was saying subject and object. That's exactly what we do with the student. And then now it's the first accompaniment for. Local policy, but also for private issue, because EDF and the local community start together to work with the design methodology to find a way together to transform what the territory, to transform from the nuclear plant to other things, and the other things are a common things. And then design is able to think about, but it's not just a post-it way of thinking, like in a lot of design sprints, unfortunately today, especially in huge company. But we decide to prototype by storyboarding, by demonstrating things, to make to prototype what could be the territory in the next 15 years. And then that's the first time, and we are really proud of that, we sign a huge accompaniment, huge studies about what could do design for a territory. And that's for me a very nice switch in my career and in the profession itself, because I start in South Korea as industrial designer, and then I sketch like home automation, mobile phone, whatever. But today, these skills, this competency are very effective into thinking about the future, but with a collective point of view. And then I can say the industrial designer, I was at school at Nantes industrial designer in the cursus, and I learned how to be a generalist in design. Then that means I completely agree with you. We need specialization as in engineering, but like in medical studies, we need also a very strong core in creativity and in all the skills I just presented before. Because if we lose that, we will become a design thinker and use post-it, maybe too much, and then just avoid what is our value for the world.
And my question is for Nicolas. I saw that you took some notes. You will maybe tell us more about your notes. But you integrate design method and maybe some design thinking into large innovation process, etc. And how do you see the designers in that? And how do you integrate the design methods in your big innovation process?
Well, I was thinking about this question because you were saying, okay, there might be, maybe there will be this question, and then, okay, how do I integrate designer in the industrial process, etc. So I think that what I'm trying to do, because it does not always work, I'm doing the other way, how to integrate the industry into the designer's process. I explained that the good process for innovation is this process. I don't say it's design. I almost never say it's design. I say, look at that. This process is this and this and this is work
Is a
like that.
methodology,
And they say, yes, okay, let's try that. Then I bring designers. I don't do design without designers. I don't necessarily say what is design. I just say, okay, we are going to work with these guys, our designers, okay. And then we start working, and it produces results. And then it goes on. So I never try to explain what is design. I do design, and I do design with designers.
Yeah, which is a good choice, if I may say, in my opinion.
And another thing, maybe more provocative. We face a lot of complex issues. We have said. All of us, we have looked at systemic design, I think. If you have not, do it. That's crazy. But I came to this conclusion that one of the problems we have is the question of scale. If you look at systemic design, you understand that you have to think at different scales. And I came to this conclusion that I have to work with designers, but I also have to work with architects. I have to work with landscape architects. I have to work with urbanists. And I think that one of the paths to solve all the issues we have is this changing scale, looking at things from far away, then doing a very, very specific things, because then you have an action. And I think it's one of the paths is to work with all the family of design and designers as a whole, and that's very Anglo-Saxon, because in France we have the designer, the architect, etc. If you speak in other countries, that's design. And I really think that we have to learn about that. It's hard, because that's very, very different design culture, design history. But I think there is a path there to try to work all together with different families of design.
Yes, please. Thank you. Yeah, crystal clear.
Thank you for this comment. I would just add something, because I totally agree with you. And probably there is another skill that we have as a designer, is to connect dots, which means working on the interface required to change scales in between the community of people who are coming from several horizons. I think that it's very key, and especially to be able to translate into questions that become common for everybody, and not tackling each issues like in a more analytic way of doing things. So I totally agree with you about that. Sociologists do these things very well.
Yeah, I do agree also, and I second your point. Please, if you don't know systemic design, even if we can say every design is systemic, okay, please have a look, Gigamaps, and ways to share different views with these processes is really, really interesting nowadays. And it will be offer me the opportunity also to raise a question from the audience. We use a lot the user-centered specificity of design in our discussions in front of our clients, etc. A new, I would say, concept is growing, obviously, today, which is life-centered design. So it's just maybe a question to all. Does it refer to something specific to you, and especially in terms of ethical leadership? Have you any comments about that? From user-centered to life-centered.
Nicolas, yes?
Well, we have faced that and this question, and that I just come back simply to my previous points. Let's speak with landscape architect. They work with lives since the beginning, and you put into the room a designer that can do co-creation, co-conception, iteration, prototyping, and a landscape architect that knows things about different scales, plants, life, etc. And that sounds very simple, but it works. and bringing landscape architecture into our industrial world, into our design problems, etc., is super interesting. I think because they are in this since the beginning.
Yeah. And do you think that it's because we are putting the word live, then it change, or it has to change our way of designing? Is it because we are putting users in front of design that will change our way of designing? You know, I am not comfortable with this kind of way of each time trying to find another word to express what we are trying to do without very putting on the table what we are talking about. So live, probably, I hope that all together we are alive. And if we are alive, I think that it put the energy we bring to the project we are conducting. And yes, probably it's important to remember again that all our human activity are done to live. So yes, it could be interesting to put it just to remember that what is the main important things is that we need to live, and probably business is one part, but not the majority of things. But I totally agree with Nicolas. Does it mean that we need to always design a very particular process? And I agree that trying to think at scale could be a good starting point.
I think that Clara wanted to add something.
Yes, actually, and I totally agree with the concept, the concept struggle. We are living in an ever-evolving world, and every time we try to rename things, but in the end, it doesn't change the practice. What is key is that we stick to who we are as designers. We are fundamentally empathic, creative. This is something that I think all designers share. So they like to observe, they like to understand, they like to take the core, to understand the core problem, the root problem of something, and to conceive, to materialize the idea that will solve this issue. So whatever name, and for my company, that will be even harder to always input new names behind methods, because they don't care about the methods. They are only focusing on the result. So they couldn't care less about which method I would be using. And if I introduce a new concept, I am pretty sure that they will say, not proven. So they will not go for it, or they will not give me the permission, the budget, the time, the resources to go through the final. So I stick to the result in my case.
Okay, thank you. By the way, if you don't know his work, please have a look at Daniel Valls' core data and work about life-centered design. Even if I agree with you, there is something behind this kind of naming designs. Emmanuel?
Yes, to complete the Clara word, usually, and I am an alumni of CEC with Convention Entreprise pour le climat in France, with a collegium of entrepreneurs working and training on some climate change proposal and goal, aim, and challenge to tackle. And they say to everyone, you have to put life and animals in your project, and animals' way of thinking. I heard that. That means, okay, I'm a designer, I connect dots, I have a holistic point of view, but I'm not a bee, I'm not a dog. Then how can I think like, no, I'm not, Gilles. Believe me. And then it's nice to implement this kind of concept. It's nice, intellectually, but it's almost impossible. And we need to go to take the opinion of experts about. Then you go to association, you go to a naturalist, you go to see doctors specialized on. But we cannot answer to everything. And if design is a good solution, that's not the solution. That means we need to collaborate And to complete about the school, changing point of view could be nice to connect school. That means design school with paysagist school or paysagism school, architecture school, engineering school, landscape school. A lot of different practice that we can use skill to share together and to work together on specific problematic. We cannot do everything by ourselves, and that's one of the problem of French culture of design. That means the designer is and it's the big fault of design promotion organism also since 40 years. That means the designer is not the key of everything. Okay, he's creative and he's able to concept and to materialize something, but he needs people to do it. If you design a car with 400 people, not by yourself. Then that's exactly the same for all the type of industry.
And what does it mean, ethical design leadership, to finish? What does it mean for you? How does it resonate for you in a very short, for people who want to start? Cathy, let's start, for sure. Ethical
people
design
who want
leadership.
to start. Cathy, yes.
You are volunteer.
Yes, I am volunteer. So one word, I would say meanings. I think that probably today what we need to keep is to create meaningful. I heard a lot of desirability, yes, but I think that with the introduction of Jill, with all this tension, I believe that we need some meaning, so bring meaning into our design.
Any other
I can try
reaction?
to complete. Just to say a word about ethical design. For me, we heard that this morning. It's about caring. It's about the care. Okay, about everything. Okay, that's definitely ethical. And for us, as I said just before, it's make common, creating commons and not creative individually. That's definitely the key to go ethical and care people, but care about the project.
Great.
Nicolas?
Okay, so for me, you did understand. I'm very industrial guy, and I really think that we did a good job working at business model, and now we have to go to value creation model, not just economics, but also sustainable issue, sustainability, society, and culture. So enlarge a little bit the concept of business model, make it more welcome, for a welcome place for designers, for engineers, for people over social science, and think about enterprise as value creation model instead of just business model.
And for me, it means leading by example with a lot of courage, I think, because sometimes it requires that you impose yourself a discipline that you wishes not to get because it gets uncomfortable, so you need to get comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will ask you to give a warm round of applause to our speakers. Thank you for these conversations. And I invite you to go to the seat. And yeah, I wanted to really, I am grateful about your questions, etc. We had 23 questions, so we will be able maybe to answer later. So we go on, and it's time for us to continue and to continue to the path, and we will have a first one-on-one conversation today. So I will invite two major speakers from different culture. So please join me in welcoming on stage Joseph Press from National Academy of Arts, Nantes Atlantic, Joseph, and Srinivasan from WDO. Please welcome on the stage.
Florent asked me to come backwards. So.
This was our challenge. So we'll have 10 minutes of conclusion. You are you were. I saw you taking notes, Srini.
Yes, I did.
How does this round table, for sure, Joseph, how does this round table resonate to you? You are educator, you are from the industry, so I'm waiting for your feedbacks on that.
Thank you. First of all, it's great to be here, part of the Cumulus discussions. So I want to start with a little bit offbeat question. Humanity or human beings are known to be having insatiable needs, which sometimes I also call greed. It's not just a need, but also greed. And most of the problems in the world, it's not me who's saying, are indeed created by the designers. So designers are also to take the blame for the challenges that we have created through the lens of design that we have been doing products, services, everything else. So we are talking today about one of the global problems is the climate change and the resilience. And designers, if we have to do something to make that go away, so I want to go to the fundamental question of, ask my dear friend, should the design schools completely change the education in such a way that the future designers are able to address these problems? As we all know, designers have very little power. You need a PhD to be able to make your point across the sea. That's what Clara told earlier today. So I just wanted to ask you, Joseph, so to see how do we handle this challenge?
Thank you, Srini, for just starting off the bat with a challenging question. And I think the answer is also complicated. On the one hand, I think that we need to double down and focus on the fundamentals that our panelists just talked about. The importance of creating, the importance of making. I know I went into architecture because I love making things. But our schools and our educations are really poor at connecting the dots with other experts, with other stakeholders, with other people who can actually take some of our well-designed intentions and actually implement them in a way that has systemic impact, particularly of the kind that we need to challenge climate change. And this is a fundamental shift that maybe AI is going to save design schools to be able to give us those superpowers. But I guess you've got a lot of experience as well with education and innovation. What are your thoughts on what is the future of designers in a way that we can actually contribute to changing climate change?
Is there a future for designers?
Or is there a future?
Yeah, I think there is definitely future for designers. Maybe not in the manner in which we've been designing for the last 50 plus years because of the additional tools and the experiences. I know different schools around the globe, as I go and talk to them, they have changed the way of teaching because one of the things that the designers today lack is the business aspects. You need to, if you are a chief design officer of a large public company, you still do not have the power to say, I am going to create this new product. Like Clara mentioned that she doesn't get a budget unless she'd say, oh, it's not proven. Whereas if there is a chief marketing officer who comes and says, boss, I think we should try this, definitely he gets a budget. So that is what I mean by changing the way we educate our designers and how to inculcate the concept of innovation and risk-taking. Business is all about risk-taking. Why we are not trusting the designers? That is what we need to inculcate in the basic education that the schools are providing, giving them the model of doing business-related courses in addition to the design skills. That is one way I would think will change the way the designers will behave in the future.
So actually in NACA, the École Design Atlantique and China Academy of Art Joint Institute that I'm the honorary vice dean of, we actually instituted using the sustainable business model canvas. So the business model canvas was mentioned earlier. So we instituted that. However, I can't see Marion, it might be in the audience. She was with us in January. We had a conversation with a French designer working in China for a French consumer goods company focusing on packaging. And he was asking us, do we have any young designers that are able to do three-dimensional models? Because at least 2 or 3 times a month, he gets a request for a new package. And we are talking about packaging, small packages for deodorant, for perfume, for household goods, everything that we might go to buy at a store. And our first question was, Maui and I, we said, okay, we might be able to find someone, but how important is recycling and sustainable products for your client? And he just laughed at us. So I do think that we can certainly institute more business practices and more sustainable practices in education. But I'll throw the question back to you. How can we actually influence business strategy, business decision, and the actual drive for profit models in most shareholder-held companies?
That's the biggest challenge, because companies do not want to forego the profits, because companies will fold if they do not make enough profits. The CEOs will lose jobs. So obviously there is motivation for them to continue to do that. But I think if you look at take away the bigger companies' responsibility to the startups. I give you an example where, currently I'm there, the Design Innovation Institute in Shanghai. So we have a innovation transformation platform where even young kids who are just coming out of schools, they start something very new. At a very young age, they start very young. They do something, of course, with the help of AI and other technologies, but they quickly learn to see how they can produce a product that will have implications to the society, and also they don't expect the profit to be very high like you need to do in the public companies. So therefore, they are able to make both sustainability as well as impact in the society in which they are making products for.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly I think we have a great opportunity and a bit of an advantage teaching and working in China because of the importance of political decision-making and the importance of more sustainable business practices that in many, many ways is better off than the challenges that we face in the West, where there is more bottom-up decision-making, where everyone has an opinion. And unfortunately, we are in the climate emergency because we forgot to put the planet in the middle of the conversation. And it really is what Gilles mentioned, Victor Papanak, what Papanak said in 1969, design is murder. He said that. He said that it was clear that we were going in this direction. So I think in many ways there's not only a design question, not only a business question, but there is also a political question that we also have to confront.
I think, in my opinion, the designers need to develop a more stronger personality, because not everybody is able to convince the upper management. But if you take soft skills in terms of how to convince, in addition to your design skills, it's always, we are saying in the corporate world, the person who has got the loudest voice gets things done, even though he or she fails repeatedly, but he gets a chance to try it out. So I would advise the designers to become a little more bold and rebel to some extent, saying that, it's okay, this is what I think we should do. Otherwise, the company is not going to go anywhere. I think the designers should become more bolder so that they have a voice in the boardroom.
And do you have an example of that, or like an anecdote or a story about that?
I have not worked in a very big corporates for a long time, though I worked. But having worked in large corporates, I get fed up, so I left. I was one of the rebels who said, if you don't do this, I don't think, I'm motivated, so I'm just going to leave. So I've always been able to run my own company, so I could do that. But I have resisted when my clients are asking me to do, I would say, I'm sorry, I cannot do this way. So I've even returned the money because I did not see the value of design that we are asked to do. So I think you need to have little bit principles. Of course, it's not easy for everybody. You all need a job, and like, you know, the other panelists, they said, in the early career, you need to take what you get, but it's okay. You get an entrance into the company, but you slowly start making noise. You develop voice cords to be a little more louder, louder, and louder. Eventually, you will be heard.
And how to convince a CEO, Joseph, for example, or how to stress that?
The only way to convince any decision maker in a business is to be very bold, as you said, certainly, in your impact for the business, in the meaning, Sophia mentioned, your meaning for the product and service, and obviously the consumer or customer. And now more and more, for example, I've done work consulting for companies like Nestle and Philips. Their board is aligning more to ESG, environment, social, and governance criteria and metrics. There's still some changes about the regulations that are in flux, which makes it a bit of a challenge. But I have to say, in my many years of consulting for large organizations, because I, like you, Serenity, couldn't go on the inside. It was just too difficult. I'm too much of a designer, like you. But what is critical, and the research shows from one of my co-authors and mentors, Roberto Faganti, I think some of you in the audience know him and have worked with him, that transformation, it's a big word, change and innovation happens in small groups, and it starts with pairs. So a wonderful example is how the Xbox actually happened within Microsoft. And he's got many, many more examples. I would encourage everyone to check out his work. But that's really critical, to have somebody to be bold with, somebody who is a bit of an accomplice.
Some allies.
Some allies as well. And building that is probably the most important skill that we could encourage the next generation of designers to be able to build allies, to be able to build stakeholder networks. And that is true if you're within an organization or if you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur. But it is just as true if you're trying to change policy, if we go back to that important domain of politics that we need to address.
Another thing I want to add is, like, especially, you know, in Shanghai, I'm also working with the Shanghai Climate Week group, consisting of a few companies that are really focusing on how to do the ESG and reduce the carbon footprint. So there you actually need to find a champion within the company. So make that person more famous, make that person more popular by working together with that person. So then automatically there is motivation from a larger company, because that person is still not heard within the organization, but you are helping him through your own little projects or workshops. That becomes, you know, more critical to the main topic that we are discussing today. I think all of you, when you are in your company, so try to find somebody within the board, within the upper management, who is very sympathetic to the cause of climate change. Just become friends with that person. Learn more about what the challenges he or she is facing and try to solve in your own designerly way, so that he or she may be able to work with you very closely.
Good news is that AI won't be able to replace that important activity of creating the relationship and the trust with the decision maker.
Very true.
A last question, what does ethical leadership? Is it a dream? Is it in the context of climate change? Is it necessary? Is it a dream? Is it ethical design leadership? What does it mean for you?
Good question. I'm hosting, like Gilles mentioned earlier, the World Design Organization celebrates the World Industrial Design Day on June 29, but this year we are doing it on June 27 because it happens to be a weekend. And I'm hosting a reasonably big event in Shanghai at the DIS, where the topic is ethical design. Is it a necessity or a luxury? So ethical design is something, a set of decisions that we do, keeping in mind how we can be resilient and save the earth. That's a simple way. Whatever comes within that will be ethical leadership to me.
I'd go back to Papanak and even Gilles' presentation. Ethical leadership in the context of climate change is all about choices. It's all about the choices you make for materials. It's the choices you make for your products, the services, the functions, the production, the business model. All of those are choices. And what I appreciated about Gilles' opening presentation was that Gilles really set out the spectrum of choices. And we need to be thinking about, what are the more ethical choices that we as designers can make, can influence, in order for us to move the needle on climate change.
Thank you very much. Thank you for our two speakers.
Thank you, Florent. Merci.
Thank you.
And thank you, Florent.
And so it's time for a short break, for 10 minutes break, I think, because the panel starts in more or less 5 or 10 minutes. So it's time for you to stretch, to work a little bit, and we start in 7 minutes almost. Thank you very much. And we go back with AI then. So welcome back, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. This is time for the second round table. I'm sorry, we have a very stretched timing. Thank you for your feedbacks also during the break. It was great, and then we'll go to the other big issue, so to say, like a timeful question, a round table about artificial intelligence, its promises, its ambiguity, and deep impact already having on design. So we can see that AI is not only reshaping our tools, it's reshaping, in fact, the way of thinking, the way of deciding, the way sometimes of relating with each other. So the question that we will have is maybe not only how we design with AI, but I understand that it is what is the role of AI and how we design the AI. So this is a major question. We will go through that, what are the new competences, etc. To help to guide this discussion, I will have my friend Gilles Rougon, and we will share together some questions. We'll have also, you are allowed to ask your questions. Sorry again, there was 23 questions we had to take, and it's a lot, but we will collect this material, I think. And maybe we will write things because we have some very nice proceedings. So we'll try to do something with all this material, which is anonymous. I say this again, this is important. And we'll use that. So we will start the next round of conversation. And on the stage, I want you to welcome the panelists on the stage. So Georgios Alexandros Salsas from European Union Intellectual Property Office, EIUPO. Anne Asensio, Vice-President of Design in Dassault Systèmes, WDO member. Jérôme Ferrari Fromager, Head of Design and in Orange. You can applaud them, yeah, please. And Quentin Lepape from Command AI. Welcome. Please take a seat. So we'll open this round table, and it was very important for us to start by the ground. Everything talk about intellectual property, risk on intellectual property. We had already some question on AI about this, so that's fantastic. We have the guy of the situation. So Georgios, tell me, what is EIPO? Because when we start, it was not very well known. What is the rule and what is the future maybe in European regulations?
So can you hear me? Okay. So thank you very much, firstly, for having me here. I am the boring part of the panel because I'm not a designer and not an architect. I'm a lawyer, so it's a completely different mindset, let's say, in this part. But it's
welcome.
Good. Thank you. It's the first time, so it's a bit challenging, let's say, for me on that part. So I don't know how much familiar you are, everyone, about the intellectual property, especially the EU IPO. So maybe you can see in the slide if you move a bit the text. So
yeah, it will arrive. The text will arrive.
So the European Union Intellectual Property Office was founded 31 years ago, back in 1994, and we are managing the registration of the European Union trademarks and the former Register Community Design. We just recently have changed to EU Register Design. So, as I said, and also we are managing, recently we have joined also a new practice, which is a geographical indication of artisanal and industrial products. Maybe you know the geographical indications mainly related to agriculture. I mean, we are in France, of course, you know about wine, champagne, etc. But now we have also a new regulation related to the artisanal and industrial products. So this is, let's say, in very, very, very briefly, because I have only 3 minutes, which is challenging, mainly for you, because I speak very fast, so it will be worse for you. And so I don't want to enter into too much detail about what our office does. As I said, we're based in Alicante. We are the second biggest decentralized agency of the European Union, and we're managing the intellectual property. I don't really know if you, everyone, or many of you know what intellectual property is and what we mean, especially in the part of the design. Something very important to mention is that actually this month was a really important milestone for this part because we had the new EU design reform for our regulation. So actually we have created now even a more modernized of the design protection framework, which is very important. It's also aligned with current technologies, etc., etc. But what is important to mention on that, what we mean by intellectual property or design, many times we think that the EU design that we're talking about, the registered design, this is what refers to designers, which is not true. Intellectual property as a whole refers to designer because we have, of course, the trademark as well that many times either design create, the trademarks, logos of companies or of their own companies, of course. Then we have, of course, the copyright, which is a very important part because many designers, they can protect their works through the copyright. Again, we have even the patents, even though the patents, they go more to the technical part and then functionality, whereas the design protection is on the appearance, but we see a lot of cumulative protection of design products that designers have also patent and design rights, and of course the design rights that I mentioned before. So one of our goals is, because we have a lot of European and international cooperation that we're doing in our office, we have the European Observatory of Infringement of IP rights as well. We have a significant part of dissemination of intellectual property, especially in the academic world. That's why we're collaborating with Écoles de Design de Nantes Atlantique the last years, and we have a program of collaboration within the entire academic community with more than 170 universities, where actually we promote and disseminate the intellectual property system, especially to the young people, to the youngsters, because we see that especially right now is the momentum that they really need to know more about intellectual property and how they can protect their own rights. Because usually we have been training people in the sense, like me, in the sense of law, how we lawyers can help the designers to protect themselves. But now it's important also for the designers to know how they can protect themselves. And now the last question, I think I still have less than a minute. So the last question related to the artificial intelligence is actually the big question, as we say, is whether the chicken or the egg or the chicken in reality. So intellectual property defines and protects human innovations and creations. This is what we know from the law. And the important part is whether artificial intelligence can become actually a creator or an author. Of course, we have a lot of discussions about using artificial intelligence, if still the designer that have used the artificial intelligence can be considered as the creator, or the artificial intelligence is used only as a tool for him or her in order to help him or her make their own creations. So that is the big question, let's say.
And just another question, because AI-generated creation, can they be protected? So
you mean if the the algorithm as such can be protected? Well, that's a very big question. To be honest, I'm not a really AI specialist in this part, but that's a very big question because, for example, related to softwares, the softwares cannot be protected, for example, by patents. They can be protected through copyright. So it's a very complicated part whether in the artificial intelligence, let's say, in the way of creating artificial intelligence, not the results that the artificial intelligence creates. Of course, there are parts that can be protected by copyright, mainly can be through the copyright in the sense of the software as such, or through the database directive. I mean, I can tell you main directives, but I think they will kill themselves if I continue with all that legal parts. But yes, it's a significant part that now we go from both sides. What the AI creates, and if that can be actually IP material, and from the other side, from the technical part, how we can protect AI, the creation of AI as such.
A lot of questions. Thank you very much, Georgios, for this presentation. And yes, that's good to know what UIPO does. UIPO, that's it? AUIPO. Then I give the mic to Jérôme Ferrari-Fromager, Head of Design and User Experience Director in Orange.
Within Orange.
In Orange, yeah. And so, Jérôme, you lead a large and diverse community of designers, one of the largest in France, I think. So, can you tell us more?
Hello? Oui.
Yeah. What is your core mission, and what is the role of designers in your corporation?
Hello, everybody. It's quite nice for me to be with you today, just to maybe share with you our well-known telco company, Orange, which is operating in many countries in Europe, also in Middle East and Africa, and some other Asian and American countries with other, let's say, enterprise branches. But if we go back to your question regarding the design within Orange, when I came almost three years ago, I had the feeling that actually we were facing many villages of designers managing things, their business, but not managing at scale, as it was we said previously. The idea of scaling at the right level, the design of the company, is a key question for us. It means at the end, we want to make sure the acknowledgement of the human and user view has to be done properly. But to make it happen and to change, to disrupt a bit the way of we are dealing when it comes to business with design, we have to gather all the strengths and all the people into one single ambition, which is to make sure that we are doing business and we are acknowledging the way that we have to consider the users, and within or behind the user, the human. So to do that, obviously it was, at least for us, to gather my people, which is almost 200 people who are dealing with innovation, product and services, but not only at the end of the day, because when you start to think about what is key for us to deliver the key value proposition in the market, is to make sure that everybody looking at the user and the customer has to be involved into this strategy to make sure it will make clear consistency across all the value proposition and across all the countries. So the idea, whenever you look at any application that we are dealing or we are launching in any market, the consistency across all of them has to be clear, has to be manageable. To do that, we have to make sure that we are only one single community. And to create this community, we have to think about the added value of being part of it. Meaning, you have to think about what are the key skills that you have to have in order to develop your own abilities. What kind of tool you have to use in order to make it happen? What are the key softwares that we have to use? And are you able to manage properly the tools that you have in your hand in order to deliver what we are supposed to deliver? And the third, but not the least, is the capability to enhance the skills of each and every designer based on their own capabilities and based on our own vision regarding what should be the role in our company when it comes to design. And last but not least, among those, we have also to think about the interconnection and the capability to work together with technical guys and marketing guys to make a triptych of people, the squad, the value stream, to call it as you want, to make sure that we will be able to deliver the top level value proposition for the market and for the country. This is a key challenge. So when we start this, we went to each and every business unit to talk about this, let's say, idea, to say, guys, let's have a common ambition to deliver a great value proposition for the designer, but we have to make it for all together. And if you are willing to do that, it's time to do that. And we did it last year. We start to create this community, and then we're building day after day what is needed when it comes to, as I told you, the product, the tools, and the skills that we have to deliver for each and every designer within Orange.
And what about AI? How do you do the strategy to make them able to use in a good way the AI?
AI is a big topic, obviously. We go back to what you were saying, Gilles, regarding the presentation of the job for tomorrow. Let's go back also to an important point regarding automation. The idea of being, let's try to separate the different topics. So what are the key tasks that we have to consider as automated? And within, I guess, the design also we have to look at and to make it, to be able to design or to proceed properly within the process, the way of working, what are the key steps or stone we have to deliver or automated? And on the other side, what should be done by the AI in order to deliver faster things. But to make it clear also from our side, it's a matter of joining the game of what are the key agents to be used today and what will be the key agent to be used tomorrow, which might not be the same because each and every day, as you know better than me, a new player is coming on the game. So the idea is just to step in the way of thinking about how we can assess the proper agent available in the market to see if it makes sense for us to use it or not. But by doing that, we're changing also our mind to deliver things by using technology, which is extremely important as well, because at the end of the day, we know by definition, by principle, the way of we are working today will be extremely different in maybe 5 or 3 years, in 2 years, or maybe next week. But at the end, this is the way that we are working at Orange.
Thank you. I will thank you, Jérôme. I will give the mic to Anne. Anne Asensio from Dassault Systems. Dassault System, we say, I think. So, in fact, I was looking at you and you were like agreeing some things or having some reactions. So you will share the vision. What is Dassault System, maybe, and how do you work? How do you implement this as a designer? How do you work with AI also?
Thank you, Florent. Thank you, and I'm very pleased to be here. Yes, I was nodding because not just from this current panel, but also from the previous one, we can see that we are crossing a lot of concepts and notions all together. So Dassault System, it's a large company today, but used to be a startup or a licorne, a French licorne. Today, global leaders in digital and software. But today we do much more than software. That was 30 years ago. Dassault System have a claim, a value proposition that is being offered to all of the industry. That is that virtual worlds extend the real life. And I use that term very often because we were talking earlier, you know, what make a designer relevant for the C-level, the COMEX, or the CEO of a company. Well, is the capacity as a designer, as a group of designers within the company to actually being really in the value proposition of the company. So within Dassault System, I joined the company. They didn't heard of design before, except maybe what they were meaning by design. That was basically engineering. And I joined, and I bring all of what we are talking since the beginning of this conversation today. I was bringing what designers can bring into the table. That means to have a reflexive action and capacity of looking at what a company provides as a value proposition to the world. Within Dassault System, we started with 3D. Today, we do 3D universe, and this basically encompasses this idea where we can digitalize almost everything today with conformity to science. So we do it with data model. They are wrong because they are reduced to what we can basically simulate. But they are very useful. And currently, we are serving all of the industry through those virtual twins that enable our customers, our clients, to actually digitalize all of their supply chain, their tooling, their shop, their engineering processes, all the way to the big question, can we also digitalize design thinking? I mean, not design thinking, you know, the method. I'm talking design thinking.
Design
the way designers think, the design way of thinking. So I creating this entity more like, not as a function, definitely not what you were talking about at Orange, because I thought that will be much more interesting to be an agent of change for all of the company by just providing through a network of knowledge and cognitive interaction a place where everyone will have to question what they are doing by design. So to do so, we have a front end that is clearly to leverage all of the aims that are in our disposal, device, virtual goggle, special space for conceptualization. And we also are interacting with science. So basically, all of the conversation we had earlier was about how we can make design evident, how we can get and make sure that the impact of design could have a metrics. How can we make sure people trust on this alternative proposition may be the right one? Well, one way is to actually get tools and maybe build a new value proposition of design based on science. I'm not saying design have to be a science. I'm telling you that if a method of design being clearly thought through science, you may deliver wonderful capacity in terms of monitoring your impact. So we do those virtual twins. We apply those virtual twins to 3 areas of I will say, impacts. The fabrication, that is the historical place of Dassault System. Fabrication means design, manufacturing, engineering. Geology, basically we are digitalizing everything, like water flow, rivers, forest, including mining. We are having big customers in mining. And we're also doing now in the biology space, a life space, where we are digitalizing the human. So when I say that, you know, it's just a journey, you know. Last and not least, what you see in the center of my slide, because today we are talking about ethical design, this is our framework. This is the archetype, the framework that we are using. We have to provide what we call 3D experience to our customers. We do it with 2 tensions, that is 4 key pillars: sustainable business, human-driven technology, meaningful experiences, and responsible culture. This is our framework. Everybody understanding because it's being embedded into the way, whatever from research, R&D, all the way to the salespeople on the field. So this helps us to actually provide a design thinking value within the value proposition of the company.
Design thinking or design way, maybe.
I like the term thinking, you know, just like if you put those 2 words together, people just putting as a tagline like an acronym, but design thinking means design thinking.
Thank you, Anne. You can give a round of applause for Anne. Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for presenting this scheme. So, Quentin, last but not least, Quentin, you work with AI in a specific context, which resonate a lot. You are co-founder of Command AI, and you work in the military you work in a military perspective with AI. So, and when we discussed, you told me that you design AI in a certain manner, etc., to interact. Can you? What does it mean to design AI? And it's a lot of questions that we have here. So let's start with that question.
Of course,
Quentin.
thank you. I took some notes based on the previous presentations and Jill's introduction. So thanks for having me. I'm an alumni from the school here, Nantes Atlantic Design School. I graduated in 2017. Then I spent 5 years at Palantir Technologies, which is a company where I was in California, in London, working as a product design lead on building data-heavy decision-making products for commercial users, such as the World Food Programme or Airbus, as well as military users like the American Special Forces and the US Army. I then went on to be the founding product designer for a defense company here in Europe, Command AI, where we've brought together a team of ex-Palantirs, ex-OpenAI, machine learning PhDs, former officers from the French and UK Special Forces, and former officers from the French equivalent or local equivalents of the CIA. And so what we're building at Command AI is decision-making software for staff officers who are doing planning and command for military operations. And we're doing AI-powered solutions in particular. So since this week's topic is about ethical leadership, and Jill introduced this antagonism between peace and war, a paradox that I'd love for designers around the world to think about is, where does the defense sector sit in this peace-war spectrum? If we take the recent example of the invasion of Ukraine, we see that one of the main factors allowing this pretty large country to be invaded in the first place is that it's not part of NATO, and so it does not benefit from the mutualized nuclear deterrence and just mutualized military power deterrence that the NATO countries benefit from. So we see there that defense, or the lack of defense, is one of the main factors in Ukraine being invaded. And so that defense is a player in keeping us in France, for instance, or in NATO in general, at peace. So here's a provocative ethical dilemma for designers and design educators to reflect on. And then a second ethical dilemma that designers building AI-powered solutions for military officers are facing is how to enable AI transparency without hindering operational excellence. And I think this goes beyond defense. And so AI transparency and operational excellence, they tend to be antagonistic, especially in high stakes, high pressures environments. So maybe we can also discuss more about that in the conversation part.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Quentin.
We already talked about quite a wide series of topics, but Jérôme, because you are in a tech company, I would really be interested to know more about kind of a contradiction to manage between hyper-connectivity on the one end, which are the services you can provide, and the fact that your core attention goes to human relationships, in fact.
So contradiction, by the way.
Yeah, that's why. But yeah, I would like to know more about your thoughts about it.
Yeah, I will maybe go back to the very simple point related to the way how we are considering the network, the connectivity. If you look at it, it was one of the key strengths for us a couple of years ago to say, guys, we are the most powerful network that make us in a situation that we can lead many of the markets where we are. But the question of the connectivity, it became a commodity. Commodity means you don't care about the one who are providing you this network. You don't have any children stepping in an hotel telling the receptionist he wants to have a Wi-Fi code from Orange. He doesn't care. He cares about a Wi-Fi code to access to this social network. So the idea of making sure at the end of the day we will be able to make the difference in our market goes back to the experience behind the connectivity. So what kind of experience as a telco operator, whatever, let's say, the service that you are willing to bring on the table, you will deliver. Is it better than the others? And if you look at the ways that we are considering things by having the right information coming at the home page whenever you go into the application managing your account, it's a key element to manage things properly. Whenever you reach the threshold of your data consumption, and you are about to be charged for an extra cost, especially if you are traveling, having this information coming to you saying, guys, this is something that you have to take care because if not, you are going to be charged for a certain amount of money. Doing this kind of evidence of the ways that you are considering the client, the customer, and the user to be able to manage their own account is key. And this kind of experience is starting and is came to make the difference in aggressive market. The price sensitivity for us is very high. We are not the only one in this kind of situation, but the price sensitivity means at the end of the day, you have to manage the value out of this capability to price things, let's say, in the higher price or more higher price than the others, because you will be able to add value behind this. If you are not bringing value to this, you won't be able to reach the market shares that you are willing to get. So we go back to your question. So there is no contradiction. We are dealing with people who want to make them happy about the service and make it as simple as possible to live their experience without constraints. And we are willing to take care about them, also about the addiction. Maybe this is another topic that we can talk about. Digital.
The design is about why designing things. What is the position of design in that?
The position is to bring the right user experience. Again, if you go back to the ideas that you have tons of services that you are willing to bring within an application or within any interface, digital interface. What are the key services that you have to start with? How you will be able to subscribe to this service? What should be the information that you have to give to your brand, for your telco company, to be able to subscribe again? Do you need your ID number again to type into this page again? Lot of things, lot of constraints that you have to remove from the customer and the user in order to be able for him to live things more efficiently, more comfortably also. So this is a challenge to look at any product, any services in another way. In a way that you want to see our customer and all of the customers using a telco company are not geek. Most of them, they don't know how to manage things between the live box that you have in your home and the set-top box you are connecting to your TV, and what are the differences between both. They don't care. Obviously, they don't care. They just want to open, switch on the TV, and be able to access to the channel they want. So how you proceed to make it happen in that way? It's a big challenge, and this is why we are here.
Yes, because you have a complex, quite complex ecosystem to manage, in fact. There is a question coming from the audience that I think is really interesting. Someone is feeling that maybe we have more designers trying to integrate AI in their processes to work as a designer than designer working on solutions AI augmented. Do you think it's the case? Maybe Quentin, you are mostly in the second situation. You use AI to develop solutions.
Right.
You design AI?
Yes, I would say I'm actually in both.
Yeah.
So we're designing AI-powered solutions. That's right. But as a designer, we're also using AI tools to power our processes. So an example would be with tools like Cursor, which is AI coding. It allows the designer to go further down the process towards programming, implementing the designs. And so that's something that we do a lot of now. It like changes what's the scope of the designer's work. Yeah.
Anne?
Definitely. We talk about artificial intelligence, and before artificial intelligence, and before we get with this breakthrough with the prompt and the text, there were many other forms of artificial intelligence called algorithmic design. Within Dassault Systèmes, we do algorithmic design for decades. And what it is basically taking a model from nature, a biomimetic model that we can learn from life, and translating into a system that just help and auto-organize a huge amount of big data, but around knowledge coming from those learning that is being transferred into algorithm. And I'm telling you, an algorithm is something you design. It's basically the mean for future programmation or format in which you can give a form to a shape, or you can give a form to a system. So this is typically something that we should discuss more, because we will need, because the conversation is also about what kind of skills we need to imagine for the future and for the designers. Designers have to consider that looking at the inspiration as we used to, natures and getting as a mean for accessing in designing AI, artificial intelligence, that is just a big valise name, okay? So that's number one. Second, it's very important also to leverage all of those new tools, open source, and maybe combining them when we are trying to define an artificial intelligence. So basically, we are using artificial intelligence through the traditional text and prompt to define what is a relevant set of algorithms that will be needed to do a particular intention. But I would like to go back to decision making. Wherever we do models, as I told you, all models are wrong, but they may be very useful. That's exactly the kind of choices that we need to make. We need to set up the environment in which designers are designing the environment in which we will make the right decision. So it's kind of a second layer effect. You get an impact not by just directly looking at the outcome, as we used to do for long, but by framing the condition for the outcome that you want to do. It's a different mindset, but it's also a design capability, I would say.
So design is not dead because of artificial intelligence, or is not. It's a different way of designing things, maybe, or.
Well, to make it simple, the humans stay at the center. It's all about dialogue. We just bring another technology. This technology go faster. Right now we are on this wow Gartner curve, being very excited about it. I'm telling you, if we keep and resist and make sure that we keep human in the loop, not just in the loop, but probably also contributing to the loop. Voilà. this is going to be so important. So whatever it is really, it's either not a choice, is what do we want to tell as a narrative and design when we are leveraging, whatever it's artificial intelligence, a virtual twin, or set up the condition for a decision. I stop here because I see some singers.
If I can add something directly to the question that was originally asked, of whether there are more designers using design tools than designers building design tools. I think in the tech bubble that I'm a part of, I actually see, or there's this feeling that every single startup now produces design tools, or like, AI tools or AI-powered tools.
Every day.
Right, exactly. So I think it's maybe a question of perspective and differences in like which bubble you're a part of. But yeah, I think there are definitely a lot of designers working on AI tools.
Keep building on you, Quentin. Earlier there was someone saying it's about connecting dots. Right now we have amazing, scientifically or not, capabilities. But we have huge technology right now that designers need to encompass. And it's a mix, it's an assemblage, it's the discovery of what is about connecting dots between human capabilities and technologies. And this is so exciting. But we need to understand and encompass what really those technologies are all about, and not just be naive and think they will do the work for us. They are just agents.
Yes, please.
Georgios?
Great, because we don't have to animate
we don't
anymore.
Have to
We just converse.
Just something very short. What was said before, which is really the important part also from the side of the intellectual property, that as long as we keep the human in the loop, and the human, let's say, the person, because intellectual property is attributed only to human beings, not even to animals. I don't know if you know the famous case about a selfie that was taken by a monkey, and of course we couldn't attribute any copyright to the monkey, only to the photographer. So it's the similar case, let's say now, that as long as we keep the human in the loop, the same goes with the intellectual property. So from the one side, you have the actual creator, let's say, of a painting, and at the same time, you have someone that has created and designed the AI to create a painting. Then the intellectual property is attributed to the one who designed the AI. It's not the AI as such. So I really like that as long as the human is in the loop, we're quite fine in this sense.
On your presentation, you were talking about, is artificial intelligence may be an agent or, or a creator? There's something that we didn't discuss at all. It's called virtual companion, or something that is quite a little bit different. It's not just here we are, the designers or the engineers, whatever, working with technology. It's the fact that we are already starting to create double of us, virtual representation ourselves, that we will be training them. That will be a double Anne or a double Florent, that you will be trained by working with it, and very soon we will see those virtual companions. And this is really a question of IP, because they will know more than us alone, and maybe people will be thinking about monetizing those virtual companions. So who belong those companions? You say, okay, I keep going, but you imagine.
A lot of questions for a lawyer.
For the lawyer, I think it's a big topic. I just want to give you another view when it comes to the impact of AI within the customer experience. Look at it. We used to produce tons of pages for a website to make sure that we gather all the information that we are willing to get for any product, even for company. We talk about maybe thousands of pages that you have within a website. Look at what is going on. People are searching information through Le Chat, through ChatGPT, and they will go directly to the information within the website that they are looking for. It means that the interaction that you have between the customer and the brand is completely different. We won't go into any application, any website, to go through the website, select the main menu, go to the information or the sections that you are willing to get the information. It's game over on that front. So it means when you go back to the designer and the way that we should interface and proceed with the proper interaction with the customer, we have to think differently. And that's why Google is in a certain position, quite uncomfortable, because 95% of their revenue is coming from the advertising, the SEO. SEO is starting to die to some extent, in another way. Do you have an idea about the price paid by Google to be part of the Apple phone? $20 billion per year. So it means the revenue is quite high, but tomorrow, what will be the golden business rule? We don't know.
Some new changes.
Just finish up on this. We had this conversation this morning together. We still stick with the paradigm of 2D. You know, site, website, because we scroll on face and it's gone. I mean, it is true that this is the way we interact with information will disappear because we're already there. Spatial computing is starting. We talk about artificial intelligence, but last year was metaverse. And those are connected. Basically, the way designers will have to think how to design an experience will be in virtual universe, will be almost alike, maybe indistinguishable from the real life. So how we do as designers protect what is really the way to live in the real world, in the physical world, and what will be our way to habitat, to live and interact in a virtual one, and make the distinction between the two, and make a design effort of distinction that is really a design job between the two. I'm telling you, this is the future. Designing in three-dimensional universe is going to be, even to the next future, a bigger topic than artificial intelligence, to me.
The next topic.
Yeah, I think maybe we will have to work as designers in a 4-dimension with AI as a new part of it. Fourth one, maybe. There is a question coming from the audience that may be a little provocative to some extent, or but I think you are not prepared to it. I will put that on the table, and just if you have any answers, that would be great. So the fact is, the topic today is ethical design leadership. Do you have any practical example or situation that helps you challenge your ethical design leadership in your work? On a situation, someone you met, something you discussed? Not an easy question, by the way. But
Jérôme.
It's a very tough question, but I just want to, it came up in my mind, the topic of accessibility for us. It's a key topic because we are willing to drive the proper experience for those who are disabling people or facing difficulties to see, to touch, to understand things. And I think it's the ethical way of managing design, in a sense of considering this handicap a good opportunity to deliver the best-in-class experience for everybody.
Design for all.
Exactly, design for all. So this is an ethical way of thinking. So considering the accessibility as a key driver of enhancing the experience that we are willing to deliver for everyone is an ethical way of thinking.
There are two things that come to mind for me when it comes to challenging my practice of design with ethics. So when I started working in the defense sector, this was seen pretty badly by a lot of people in the design community, people that were close to me as well. I know this was the case for a lot of people that I work with in the defense sector and who are also designers.
With Palantir, for example.
With Palantir. Yeah. And I still chose to work in the defense sector regardless. But then, a few years later, the war in Ukraine happened, and it actually changed or it shifted the view of a lot of people on defense. And so I feel like it ended up challenging everyone else's assumptions about what are ethical fields for a designer to work on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say that we have to make those decisions every day. I work at Dassault Systèmes, so we do virtual models. And like artificial intelligence, those models are being designed, as I said, based on what we can represent, what we can conform to science, make as a data model. So in doing so, systematically, there are exclusion of things, information, and most of them are all of what is related to humans. In some cases, we are designing, I see some design of models and virtual world where basically the question of human is almost even not expressed. The digital twin of an hospital with no passion in it. Okay, just the kind of thing. So I'm telling you, those decisions that are not leadership decisions, they are day-to-day design decisions to be made.
And how can design be the future leader?
I'm sorry,
how can designers be the future leaders in a company, or shall they be leaders, or so what?
It's interesting. I have a personal take about leadership. I believe that the most important leadership is to actually influence a maximum of person. If not, you will be basically killing yourself, maybe make a good reputation of yourself, but your impact will be very low. So sometimes being an evangelist, trying to bring that kind of behaviors and in everyone you are working with, when you are connecting us, we know Dassault Systèmes is a platform. We are connecting in a daily basis with everyone on a one-to-one level. So I can talk to anyone, any hierarchy level, and everywhere in the globe, and wherever the discipline is, okay? When you have such a situation, a network approach of knowledge that is accessible, then immediately you want to make sure that you are setting an architecture of value, a value of values. So doing so, I don't know if it's really purely a leadership action. It's an influence action. It's an attitude that you want and promote as exemplar for others to follow. I mean, that will be more my take on it.
Influence. A last word, Quentin? Yeah.
Maybe anything to add, building on top of what Srini shared earlier. I think boldness, courage to challenge what's ethical or how we should approach ethics in companies, commercial companies included, is part of how we need to lead for ethics.
A last word? Yeah.
At least from my side, let's say my really humble opinion on that, because I'm not a designer, as I said before, but what I have seen with several visits that we did to design schools and we spoke with young designers, etc., what I really think which could be combined with leadership, and actually was said in the previous panel, I think that the designers should start thinking themselves not just the artist, let's say, the artistic part. Nowadays, especially with the new technologies and everything, that just by posting something on Instagram, you share it and maybe you're losing your rights, etc. I think that having a significant knowledge of the business part, the financial part, and at the same time, a lot of legal aspects, especially related to intellectual property, is something very important, I think, for a designer to go, let's say, in this part of the leadership. Of course, always people are going to be surrounded by someone who is expert in finance, someone who is expert in law, but still having a general, let's say, overview of what you're creating, what is the financial asset and value of it, the valuation of your IP in this sense, or of your creation, and at the same time, what exactly is the IP that you're holding. It's very important apart from being the artist in this sense. I think this could be said from my side.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We can give a round of applause to all your speakers. And to Gilles, thank you very much for this moderation. I will invite you to go back, and thank you very much. Thank you for all the questions from the audience. Of course, we couldn't hold all the questions, but that was a fantastic round table. Thank you very much. Very, very impressed by the quality of the insights. So, thank you. It's time to go to the final question. design education across continents. So we will ask for some witnesses, big witnesses, if I can say so. We have the chance to have with us, and I ask you to welcome Christian Guellerin, directeur de l'école de design Nantes Atlantique, Yonchi Lu from Tongji University, and Fabienne Munch, Ohio State University. Please, welcome. Yeah, I will. I'll be there. So, thank you very much. We have now, you have the responsibility to close this panel. And this day, it was really fantastic to prepare this with you all. And this is about design and education. So you are like very influential person in education, in the world of education across continent. And I want to hear you. What are the challenges on education? What are the different challenges? And what are your feedbacks on what you have heard of? So maybe first, Fabienne, first feedback, Fabienne from Ohio State University.
Well, we heard a lot of the other side of the implementation of design education, and it transpired a few elements that we feel as educator. I think design education has done a pretty good job at providing technical skills and scaffolding the skills from sketching to computer modelization to now asking the computer to do something on our behalf. So we're not too bad there. Where I think the challenges are is the part that sometimes we call soft skills. I like to call them social skills of students. Preparing for entering this world, and we heard a lot about what awaits them, preparing them to actually advocate for their design. We too often, when we critique their project, we tell them how they could do this better or how they did not include this dimension of the problematic. But I think we're not good enough at helping them build self-confidence in how they're going to advocate, in how they're going to make choice, and sit in front of a decision maker and say, this is what I would recommend you do. They too often talk about their process. This is how I started to do this. Nobody cares. I mean, maybe in school you do care, right? Because we want to make sure that the process has rigor, integrity, creativity. The moment you get out there in the world, it's about making choices, and the best possible choices that are within your understanding of the situation. So that's one, advocacy. I think we need to be better at making them advocate of their choices. And then collaboration. We do collaboration. I'm sure in all our institutions we have moments of collaboration around projects. Being project-based is definitely an asset for designers because I think this is where the structure of organization is aiming toward, being driven by project as opposed to a vertical hierarchy. But be true collaborator, meaning hearing what others say, do active listening in how what those experts are saying is going to enrich the way you're going to start designing solution. Don't try to be experts. I was listening to, whether you like him or not, but I was listening to something that Don Norman was saying a few weeks ago. Designers know nothing. And actually, I didn't like it first, but then I think, after all, we're not the knowledge bearer. We're not. we need to find the experts that we are going to surround ourselves with to actually work together towards crafting the solution to the situation.
But Fabienne, we are far from the applied art tradition.
Oh. The applied arts provide the technical skills and the project base, and working with your professors as, maybe we don't call them masters anymore because it doesn't have a good connotation, but they are actually working with the students in activating those aspects of the design process. So you need those technical skills, but yes, it's not enough. We need science, we need social skills, and I think we need also cultural intelligence, which goes with the collaboration. So I'll stop here.
Maybe a next question to Yonchi. We talked yesterday about this fantastic experience that you do in Shanghai and in this new school, so to say, this approach of Swiss. Can you tell me more about this? Tell us more.
Okay, so I'd like to first, before talking about what I'm doing, so I think that I'd like to follow up with what Fabienne said. And I think that one of the biggest challenges for design education is we change too slow. The society and economy actually evolving much faster than design education. And there's a war between our education, not only design, the whole higher education system and the society. Economy, like, and the society, the ecology, which is not part of the design education system. So in some way, Dan said something correctly, but also I think that's important. Even Dan is important design thinker, but there is some part of design which beyond his knowledge. For instance, Dan knows little about the beauty. Okay, come back to my law. So actually, I saw that still in the screen that introduced me like a vice president of Tongji University. I think I'm a Cumulus old family member. I've been 9 years as a dean of College of Design and Innovation at Tongji University, and then I shifted to become the vice president of Tongji University. I worked for that position for 4.5 years, until 1.5 months ago, I stepped down from the vice president of Tongji University, and now I have a new role. I'm the president of Shanghai University of Engineering Science, and that's a huge university. 25,000 students, more than 3,000 faculties. So it's a very, for me, I think that look at my career development. It's always related to design, but I implement design in different scale. First, the design school, then second, as a vice president of a comprehensive university, and then the president of a comprehensive university. So now my role is how to connect design, engineering, and the business. And that university has a 40 years history, but they spent 40 years to build 3 wings: engineering, design, and business. But they put the 3 wings in 3 different warehouses. So my role is, my job actually very simple. First, put them together, and then rotate them. So in this way, I think that the best scenario is how to use the city, in my case, is the city of Shanghai, to become the best ever university. So the students will learn from the city, immersively learn from the city. So in this way, how to blur the boundaries between the universities, cities, between the university and cities, among the different disciplines, between the industries and the academia, and between the human and the ecology. I think this will be the main strategy. Maybe I stop here, I can elaborate later.
Christian,
So you have Shanghai and you have Nantes. And okay, all right. And Nantes is the center of the world, but only for 3 days. So, okay. And 15 years ago, we decided to totally change our curriculum here in Nantes. We decided that bachelors were dedicated to skills, applied art skills. I mean, you need to learn, definitely, and to make the difference, to have specific skills compared with the engineers or with the business people and so on. And the master's system is dedicated to complex, systemic thematics. And the purpose was to mix the different skills, product, interior architecture, graphism, digital, and make them work together, definitely, on those topics that concern the world, food design, city, care, and so on. It was a choice. It was not done very much in the School of Design at that time. Now, all of you have that in a way. And, but we are not definitely satisfied of what we are doing. We have a problem here, and I'm a little bit fed up at the moment that, I mean, 80% of the idea, the concept produced in those programs and goes directly to the garbage after the final jury. Because it's very difficult to make our students become entrepreneurs of their own idea. They produce the idea, they represent some concept, and sometimes it's very clever, but very few of them go further. Let me give you an example. We have final project, and we have, for example, a guy coming from product design. He is going to draw some bicycle, he is going to produce some maquettes and so on. And final jury, this is my job. And the jury, yes, it's very clever, whatever. But it's not a bicycle, it's a piece of paper. We have to go further. We have to work with more and more companies to make understand to our students that they have to prototype their ideas. And we are going to try to set up some spatial relationship with company to handle with the final project, for example. We need our students to become much more entrepreneur because they have a responsibility. It's not to represent the world, it's to build it, definitely. So they have to go, we have to go further. It's not enough to imagine and to represent. We need to build. This is first point. And probably the next step in our development, in our strategy, will be to hybrid the discipline. What we want to do is to try to constitute some teams with engineer and designer to handle the final projects. To make the discipline entering in resonance, to go further, to be enriched by the culture of the others. Why we have decided to deal with ethical leadership? Because as I said yesterday, I do feel the responsibility of the designer is to be capable, and this is soft skill, to share with the others and make them work together. This is our responsibility. This is leadership. 15 years ago, I wrote an article, the new School of Design, New School of Management. You can imagine that it was very controversial, of course, and so on. And I had some phone calls from the business schools and so on. So whatever. Okay, all right. But I do feel we are, I'm totally convinced we are the new school of management. Not new school of business, new school of management of project. We have this responsibility. And thanks to the fact that we have two major shifts of context. I mean, ecology, we need to help the companies, the society, the whole society to conceive, to produce, to sell totally differently. As I said yesterday, we have to pass from the society of consumption to a society of contribution which is totally different. Probably many companies, and our students need to be aware of that. Many companies will be obliged because we have to save the resources to pass from product to services. But we need our students to understand that. So they need to learn strategy, to understand that the generation of added value, this is economy, this is business, to pass by the fact that tomorrow more and more companies will be obliged to sell some services, ecology, and so artificial intelligence, you know. It's terrifying, but we have to be enthusiastic because we have no choice, first, and maybe it's the occasion to reinvent the world of tomorrow. I mean, we were talking about the numerical, I don't know if we say that in numeric?
Digital twin?
Digital twin, okay, all right. I didn't know, I know the word in French, of course, but okay, all right. This is totally terrifying, but it's the occasion to generate added value totally differently. And we are sat on that, so we have to keep technical skills, and we have to enter in a new era thanks to those two shifts of context.
And the designer is the center, could be like a key in the in these two new contexts, Fabienne?
Well, there's a lot of colleagues in the United States who quote the role of designers as facilitators. You hear that a lot on the West Coast and in a lot of other contexts. So it's possibly what you're saying, right? But it's not facilitator like what you're doing, Florent, right? It's really about diving in the brain of others and understand how they function. That's facilitation, because when I was talking about active learning earlier, is not just stay at the layer at which people want to take you when you have a focus group or when you do participatory design. It's really about this design process that we apply to what's happening in the group. So it's facilitation in order to extract what is said. Somebody was talking about creativity earlier, extract some creative ideas, and then with the design process, advance them to something that we can build, something we can prototype, something we can test. So I think that's that. But I'd like to say later something about design research, because I really like what was said earlier about that.
Leadership or facilitator?
You know, that's when you get into personality traits. Not every design student today will be a leader. And there will be a fan of opportunity for them to have a good life, to do design, and to impact society. So leadership is something super difficult, super demanding. You work 90 hours a week and you still don't get everything done that you wanted. So it's difficult, and it's extremely demanding on your personal life. And I think for the current generation, who are very focused on their work-life balance, it's a choice. And you can decide not to be a leader and be a good designer.
Yongchi,
Yes.
go back on your experience.
Yes, I think that the design-led interdisciplinary innovation is one of the most beautiful fairy tales among the design society. But I always interpret in this way. So you know that in China, we always host a dinner. It's different. You know, if somebody hosts dinner, and he's supposed to pay, right? And when you host a dinner, a meal, and you will automatically be the leader, right? So I think that we need to encourage designers to host a meal, a dinner. But at the same time, designer, and we should be motivated to join the dinner somebody else hosted. Engineers, business. So in this way, you'll become a part of the community. So I think this is important. It's inclusiveness. And also, if we talk about the big challenges I mentioned before, the society changed much faster than the design schools. So we need to catch up. But at the same time, I think that, as Christian also mentioned that, it's possible for designers to be the real engine for the next economy, for instance. Before we talk about why Bauhaus was such a great movement, because Bauhaus connected to the Industrial Revolution. But Bauhaus was not the result of the, not the cause, sorry. Bauhaus actually was a result of the Industrial Revolution, but not the cause of the Industrial Revolution. But there's now possibility. What will be the next economy? I always say that the next economy, at least a part of the scenarios, will be the economy of repairing the Earth, repairing the planet. Because look back, most powerful economy after the Industrial Revolution, all infrastructure related. But the different era, the meaning of infrastructure actually was different. It's coal, oil, steel, right, and train, cars, right, internet, nowadays AI, computing powers. But now, if the environment capacity, we can see the ceiling. So we have to fix repairing the planet in a high-speed, large-scale, professional way. That's the industry. So can design be a cause of this kind of economy? So this is something that I think that I hope that the more and more design schools, designers, to think about that. But when we say designers, it's not only the students get education from the design school. I think it should be in a much broader sense.
Thank you. Maybe one last word, Fabienne, to conclude.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about design research because the first panel was talking about PhDs, and I think the value of a PhD in design is that you're going to go very deep into a subject matter, and then you can be an expert, yes. And then it's not only the title, but it's also the fact that you have applied rigor and read a lot and tested a lot ideas, and then you become a voice. Again, there is a spectrum there, and in my department, all students take 2 design research collaborative studio in their 3rd and 4th year, the 2nd and 3rd year, sorry. It is extremely important that they understand that if they are in touch with the field, if they're in touch with people, that is giving them some elements of conversation that are going to ground their advocacy, that are going to ground their project. And when somebody was saying earlier, it's very frustrating that I'm not given the resources I want as a designer in my big organization. Well, when you bring something that's knowledge-based, knowledge, not ideas. I agree, ideas is everybody. Ideas have 0 value, 0 market value. But knowledge that you've constructed through your effort in design research, then you're going to surprise your CEO. Then you're going to surprise the executive committee. That's the way designers are going to be much more impactful in organization when they say something to those people, and particularly in France, where they're all coming from big engineering schools and ENA and whatnot, even if it doesn't exist, they're still around. They know a lot. So designer can bring them something they don't know. And that's how you're going to be impactful.
One last word, Christian.
Yeah.
What is the main takeaway?
Let me, about research and so on. And in 2012, we were in Shanghai, right? You remember? And we had a meeting with I had a meeting with Ezio and Lou, and Ezio and Lou are They are at the origin of DESIS. 10. Sorry, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. And DESIS, social innovation, it has been, it has known a huge success everywhere. Many researchers, many theses and so on, everywhere in the world. Really, the idea and what has been done with DESIS is totally incredible. Ezio, Lieu, they are the founders of DESIS. But at the same time, in the School of Design, we have not been capable to produce mayors, ministries, director of region and so on, to use all the research that has been done in social innovation. And this is a problem. This is a problem. I don't know which ambition we may have, but if you want to have an impact, you need, in a way, to have the key of the power. No politician are designers. No politician are designers. In France, sure. But who have the key of the power? Normally, from DESIS and this huge stream of research, it should emerge some designers who say, I am the mayor of the town because I am a designer. And we have not been capable to do that. And it's time to do that. I do feel it's time for design and designer.
Thank you very much, Christian. This is the... Thank you. I want to get... Thank you very much for all the speakers for this conclusion in education. You can, yeah. Thank you. It was really inspiring. So it's time to close this conversation because you understood that Cumulus conversations were not about answers. It is about our responsibility, our common responsibility. And thank you very much to all the speakers. We can give them a round of applause to the speakers. And please give your takeaway, your feedbacks, or so what. And then this is time for celebration. This is time also for celebration with intention, with impact and care. And before we close, I want to take the handover to my friend Stéphane Gouret and Deputy Director of l'École de Design Nantes Atlantique. Please welcome Stéphane Gouret. And you are board member of APCI and you will guide us through this epilogue. Stéphane.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Florent. This afternoon was totally fruitful, obviously, but also very interesting for discovering all the nuances of accents that the French have. Let me will add one more now. I'm very happy to welcome you to this last session dedicated to French design as part of the Cumulus Spring Conference. This session is a celebration of how design helps shape our collective imagination in historical places, during global events, or through projects with real social and impact. To open this session, I'm delighted to invite a French designer known for a work that is both poetic and functional. Yona Vautrin is known for her famous Bénic lamp, published by Foscarini, and for designing the lighting for high-speed train TGV West in France. She was selected to design the new chairs for Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, a very special order she will now tell us more about. Yona, please join me on the stage. Thank you, Yona, to be here with us. I think we will discover some pictures and maybe a video. And during we discovered this video about your work, what did it mean for you to work on Notre Dame?
Participating for the reconstruction of Notre Dame, also called the construction of the century in France, was a great opportunity as a designer, but also a great responsibility, of course. This project was highly regarded, severely judged, and above all, extremely time condensed. With Bosque, the company that manufactured the seat, we maintained constant pressure and concentration for 2 years until the installation 2 days before the reopening in December.
Wow. And how did you balance respect for the historical place and contemporary design?
At first, I felt quite paralyzed by the historical, architectural, cultural, and also liturgical weight of this cathedral. This almost 1,000 years old building has involved considerably since its creation. It has regularly received contemporary addition compared to its medieval origin. So understand this story allowed me to relax a little for the creation. Then I focus on the idea of creating a dialogue between the Gothic architecture and the design of the chair. So several elements therefore guide the project. For example, the transparency of the Gothic architecture, the rhythm of the arches and of the column on the nave. Certain softness emanate from this impressive architecture. So I designed a chair with bars that let light through. At the back of its backrest, an arch is drawn, like a reminiscence of those on the nave. Also, its cross-shaped structure echoes to the graphic floor. Then its back low enough. No, sorry. Its back is low enough to create a low horizon in the perspective of the cathedral. This detail visually underlines the verticality of the nave and give this 1,500 chair a posture of humility that the Diocese of Paris asked for the creation.
And last question, how did you think about the practical use of these chairs in such a sacred and busy space?
The specifications were very complex. It had to be stackable, it had to be durable, like 30 years, with very intensive use. It had to pass different hard specification tests. It had to be connected to other chairs to create clean walls on the nave. Sorry. A big question arose during the project: should a church chair be comfortable? In my opinion, the idea of welcoming visitors was fundamental to a modern vision of religion and the relationships with its congregant. I specify the Catholic religion. Its lowered backrest allows to comfort while remaining focusing on a service, on a concert, or simply in prayer. Looking back, I think the most interesting thing on this chair is that it completely disappears when people sit on it.
Thank you so much, Yona, for your testimony. Thank you. Please stay on stage with me. Yeah. We will now watch a short video about Atelier Blâme, a creative studio based in Nantes. This studio contributed to iconic moments of the Paralympics, They built the Olympic cauldron designed by Mathieu Lehader, and also created Zeus, the mechanical horse featured in the opening ceremony. Let's take a look at the amazing work. It's now my pleasure to invite one of the most famous French designers to join me on stage. Mathieu Lehader is the designer of the Olympic torch and the cauldron for Paris Olympics, two powerful and symbolic objects that carry messages of peace and unity. Mathieu, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to be here with us. I think we will discover some pictures of your work, but I have a few questions for you. How did you approach the design of such a universal object as a torch?
You know, it was initially a competition, and the time frame was about 3 weeks, quite short, to design the torch, the relay cauldron, and the Olympic cauldron. So, as you may imagine, at this stage, we will not get time and opportunity to go absolutely into the details, but in those 3 weeks, we had to get an idea and to make the design and 3D renderings and so on. So, for this reason, but mainly because I always work in that way, I firstly avoid to go deeply into the history of torches, and to avoid to go deeply into the history of the Olympic cauldron. First of all, because I didn't get time, but mainly because I knew that the inspiration would not be able to come from that, and probably more than that, I wanted to not refer and not to pay tribute to basically not to pay tribute to the sport, but my main focus was to find a way to bring into the playground all the people who are not fan of sport. And because athletes, fan of sport, are already convinced. And basically whatever you may design, they will love it in a way, because it's Olympic torch. So my main focus was to try to find a way to talk to the people, and in French, there were many of them, who said, oh, we don't care about the Olympics. We don't want the Olympics at home. It's going to be messy and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So my main focus was to be absolutely dedicated on them. And for that, my idea was to make objects that might be able to catch their attention, to be dense enough to include and to embody all the history behind, all the performance, everything, and at the end to keep simple enough to make every single object I've made able to be remembered. The first idea I get was and it was for the torch, I wanted any kid that would attend the relay to be able to, when they might see the torch in real or in the TV, to be able to get back at home and to take a pen and a sheet of paper and to design the torch by itself. So this is the reason why, for the torch, for example, I wanted to make it absolutely clear and simple. And I wanted to express also the idea of equality. So basically, I can make a mock-up. It's equality because parity, and equality because Olympics and Paralympics. So it means two same objects, male, female, Olympic, Paralympics. Hop. Olympic torch. Easy, huh? Easy to be designer. Non-idei.
And how do you tell a story through objects like this, so symbolic? Which story will you try to
But actually, I get the chance to be asked to design those three objects. Usually, and for the past, it's mainly you give the torch for one designer or one studio and the Olympic cauldron for another one. And the Paris committee wanted to give a kind of consistency, a whole story between all of them. So basically, I designed them in a kind of three chapters. And those three chapters are more or less based on the idea of the sun, because you have to know that to light the very first torch in Greece, in Olympia, for every new edition of the Olympics, basically, you light up the first torch with the sun. You bring a kind of parabolic mirror toward to the rays of the sun, and you bring the rays, and it's light up the first flame, the sacred fire, and this fire will be transmitted during all the relays. So I wanted to go from this initial chapter and at the end to bring back the flame to the sun. So the very first idea of getting a kind of flying cauldron came from that, came about this idea of, okay, the sun, by chance, give us the fire and we will get it back to it waiting for the next edition of the Olympics. So for the torch, it was probably more difficult because we have in mind, all of us have in mind some existing torches, and many beautiful of them have been created. But for the cauldron, it was probably more easy because actually, I guess nobody of us really remember any Olympic cauldron. So it was more a kind of blank sheet of paper. And by chance, the Olympic committee, the Paris committee, wanted to make something absolutely unforgettable. So when I put on the table the idea of getting a flying cauldron made by this kind of flying balloon, and of course linked to the history of France, where the very first balloon and hot air balloon have been created in 1783, so many years ago, they knew that it might be great, but it might be super risky. And it was definitely super risky. Risky because of the time frame we get, risky about we never did that before, risky because we wanted to create a new type of flame that is not a real flame, but based on basically, and we work closely with EDF to create a flame based on LEDs plus water with a kind of mist of water, and fans to make the mist dancing upon the light and creating this new type of fire. So for that, just to give you an example, basically you have to bring water and electricity next to each other like this in a kind of umbilical string going from the ground to 60 meters high to be able to make the flame existing. And we knew since the very beginning that the wind might be a super strong issue. So just to give you an idea, if for the opening ceremony the speed of the wind would be a bit much higher than it was, of course the flame would appear, of course this opening ceremony would occur, but the balloon would never fly, at least for the opening ceremony. So really the tribute it's to find out some type of clients, commissioner who are able to take on their shoulder this type of risk, because we knew that it would be seen by billions of people. We today estimate that probably between 5 and 6 billion people have seen the Olympic cauldron. So, and if for the opening ceremony, for any technical issues, the balloon wouldn't be able to raise up, it wouldn't be the same story. So
I think we could see now a short video about the making of the cauldron.
Yeah.
You bring for us. I have a last question for you, Mathieu. What did it mean for you to be chosen for this so symbolic event?
When I received the phone call, it was in January 2023. Probably I get 10 seconds of very intense happiness. And all the hours and days and weeks after, it was a mix between a kind of, not pressure, but a kind of responsibility, but also an incredible pleasure. Because definitely all the process going from the initial idea and all the way that we had to interact with EDF engineers, with mechanical staff, with specialists of helium balloon, with the regulation policy in France, everything. It was absolutely an amazing process. And probably it was, in my experience, the very best process I get. And one more time, because Tony Estanguet, the head of Paris 24, and his team, since the very first day, give me not a carte blanche, but we work in a very trust way. And when they have decided to choose me, they said, "Okay, Mathieu, you will have to lead, and we trust you and do the best you can do." So in that way, all the team that had been involved did an amazing job.
Great. You're also the president of the jury for the brand new French Design Impact Award, what we are talking about now. What did you like the most about this first edition?
What I like the most is probably the title of this award. Because, you know, I probably choose this job because nobody is really able to give a clear definition of it. And we hear today that nobody is really agree about the right definition of it. And for me, even when I was a student, I attend many debates between the professors, the students, about what is supposed to be design. And I was thinking in my mind, but we don't care. We don't care. It's a great chance to work in a discipline that nobody is really able to give a clear definition. But if I would have to choose one word that might, maybe not a definition, but might be really linked to design, it's the question of impact. Impact, firstly, in terms of sense, in terms of your eyes, basically, to catch your attention and to tell you something. And from that, impact on your conscience, and maybe after that, impact on your behavior. So the idea of the impact and basically all the shapes, all the type of solution it can provide, for the jury, it was absolutely great to see that, yes, a wide range of type of solution, what type of course, materials, but scale, system, product or service or everything. So the future would be not so bad, actually.
Thank you so much, Mathieu.
Thank you.
This award was launched by APCI, a French national agency to promote design. 40 projects were selected for this first edition. You can discover them just after this session in the exhibition located nearby in Hall 1 and 2. And now to tell us more about this award, please welcome Emmanuel Touan, President of APCI. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Emmanuel, what is APCI?
APCI is a French organization who promote design since 42 years, 40 years old organization, public interest organization. Then that means we try to not to define design, but to defend design and designer in all activity sector in France where the designers are involved.
And what about this new award? Why this new competition?
This new awards come from a major plan, a main goal, who was to try to mix the approach of promoting design in France. That means since my election 2.5 years ago, I try with a sister association, and then I have to say thank you to this association. Like first of all, the Institut Français du Design, IFD, directed by Anne-Marie Sargueil, who help us to imagine what could be the next step of rewarding design. And we work also on with Association Design Conseil, ADC, who is working about how to integrate young students in different companies. We work also with Alliance Française des Designers, with a professional organization defending the right of designer, and we was talking something about IP, who is one of main problem today, and it comes from an idea supported by the National Council of Design, who was creating after the Assises Nationales du Design in 2019. And after that, we meet together and we decide to, instead of have a kind of competitiveness together, we decide to work together and to try to think as a collegium what we could do for design in France. That's come in a main plan called France Design, come from France Design Week, which is operated by APCI in coordination with a lot of people all around the country, and even more since 5-6 years now. And it's a huge event all over the territory. That's the first point of France Design Plan. The second one was France Design Hub, with a platform organization to find scientific data and to connect people on design problematics all around in France. And we have also France Design Mode d'Emploi, with networking session organized with ADC to be able to give students some opportunity to meet companies who need designer all over the territory, not just in Paris, because we have a Parisian vision of design usually. And we also create France Design Lab, with 2 design labs, one in Rennes, one in Tours in France, who operate design in economical system. And then at least we decide to not to give another chance to observer du design, because PCI historically was the promoter of observer du design during 20 years. As a designer, I was rewarding by Anne-Marie Boutin at this time. But we decided to transform the point of view of design, because we want to address people and not designer. And then to address people with design, we don't have to show design as an aesthetical point of view or how can I say, signature. That's not the point. If we were to, what just Mathieu said, the design is impacting, and then we can understand why making design, why putting design in a strategy of a company, by just knowing what could be the impact of design. And then we decide to find a way to be able to count impact about obviously economical point of view. That's a basic things, but we need to educate owner of company about the impact, good impact about economical point of view. And we decide also to work on 2 other side, environmental problem and impact. And then we ask a specialized company of engineer to work with us about the data and how to judge it. And then that was quite a big issue for this price, and then a short time and not a lot of money on APCI and association. And the last one was a social impact. And then we are very proud about that. And I will say thank you obviously to Isabelle Verillac and Rosen Ludar, core team of association, because she worked a lot about promoting the prize And then for the first year, we receive almost 2,000, I think it's, 200, sorry, 200 projects. After the 200 projects, you will see the 40 nominees. And we will give the big prize in Paris the 12th of September. Then the exhibition will be today. For the nominee, it's not so far. And what I will say about this prize is we are very proud to promote design and not promote designer. We are really proud to promote impact at what could we do to increase the best impact on economy, social issue, and environmental issue. Sorry. About the social things, we work with Banque des Territoires, who promote the prize. We work also with BPI France about economical point of view, and with ADEME in France about environmental issue.
Thank you. So you are welcome to discover this exhibition. It's 5 minutes walking.
Yeah, it's very close too, and I hope it will not raining when we will leave the room. But anyway, we have a red, very nice red umbrella, and then it could be nice to go there.
That's last word for this afternoon, this amazing afternoon. Thanks a lot to Yona again, please, and for Mathieu. Thank you to all speakers of this amazing Cumulus conversation. Thanks again and good evening.